You sent all your family Christmas cards out yet?
I don't send Christmas cards out.
What?
I don't do that.
Not to even to your family in America? You don't send them a Christmas greeting?
No,
What?
they get a Christmas greeting from my children. They get a Christmas card, which you may get as well.
You're a scumbag.
No, I can't. I have other members of my family. I don't operate as an island, unlike you.
Scumbag.
You know, my Christmas cards go out from the Graham family, okay?
Sleazeball.
That's really unfortunate you said that. I'm going to have to cut you off the list.
Got a face like a loaf of bread.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It is, of course, the penultimate show of the week. It's Thursday, and so it's time for Porky Vision. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. And it is great now to be within the realms of the winners this week. You see what I mean?
The realms of the winners?
Yes, Everton,
What
of
do you
course.
mean, Everton?
Everton beating
Hang
Arsenal.
on. We can't have another night talking about Everton.
No.
Everybody else but Everton played tonight.
No. Now, in your opener to this show, you listed the teams that had won last night, okay?
Yes, that's right.
You said that Spurs had won. You said that Manchester United had won.
They did.
Who else won?
Chelsea won.
Yes. Okay.
West Ham won as well.
West Ham won.
So I didn't mention everyone that won.
So what I'm saying is it's great to be within that pantheon of winners. Once again, you mount the Colossus to the top.
It's a family
and you
show,
say,
this, you know.
What?
It's a family show. Everybody talking mounting Colossus.
And you say to yourself, we are amongst those who are the winners, the only place to be in life.
I'll tell you who else won, right?
Yes.
West Bromwich Albion.
West
looking rather
Bromwich
good.
Albion.
Ever since Tony Pulis lost that court case.
Yeah, I know,
He's had nothing but great success.
Well, perhaps he needs the bonus.
Well, maybe so.
Sorry, Tony.
Yeah,
only
obviously,
joking.
there's no suggestion that there's any bonus tied
No,
into
no.
anything that Tony Pulis has done.
Absolutely.
But, and, they're in 7th position, aren't they?
Yes, they're doing very well indeed. Everton are in 8th, by the way.
Yeah, we know about that.
But I'm amazed Everton are in 8th, because we lost the last 4 away games.
I know.
How can you get to 8th position in the Premier League halfway through the season?
It does tell you, does it not, that it's a very, very unusual season, don't you think?
It is an unusual season. However, what is not unusual is the consistency of Chelsea, now 10 games on the trot.
Yeah.
And by the way, what about the revival of Cesc Fabregas?
Indeed, a man who wasn't able to get into the team just a few weeks ago.
Exactly.
He scores the winning goal.
Yes.
We're going to talk to Simon Johnson, who's up at
Sunderland.
Sunderland.
And of course, that's...
what?
That killer pass at Manchester City that Fabregas put through for the goal that turned the game there. Do you remember that?
Hey?
Fabregas.
Oh, you're talking about when Chelsea played Manchester City?
Yes.
All right.
What do you think I was talking about?
No, because I thought you were getting confused again.
Confused about what?
Well, when you said that great pass that Fabregas made at Manchester City, it sounded like you thought he was playing for them.
At Manchester City, I said.
Yeah,
you dope.
Yeah, I know. But there was an incident on one of the videos that we made earlier this week where you thought Manchester City were playing Bournemouth.
There was also an incident on one of the, on one of the podcasts earlier this week when I thought you'd actually used the F word.
Yes, I know that.
Do you know that?
I do know that because people remarked upon it.
In shock.
People remarked upon it on Twitter.
Yes.
Because they thought, and I said something like, I think I'll go and find it or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a slightly different collection of words.
Yeah, but anyway, it wasn't.
I certainly know. I would never use that word on the radio.
I know you wouldn't. It's a family show, and I know that you do accord to the ideals of this great show. Now, the worst managerial appointment of the season has taken place.
Yes.
I mean, I just don't get it. Who are the people who own Birmingham City?
Well, Birmingham City, as far as I know, is still in the realms of sort of difficulties, isn't it? Because they had that Chinese guy.
Is that the guy who ended up in jail?
Who ended up being, sent to jail and was being tried in Hong Kong.
Yes, that's right. Hong Kong.
For various different things. So, to be honest, I think it's still kind of in the realms of that recovery.
Well, I wonder who made the decision then to get rid of a manager who was doing okay. What's the guy's name? Gary what?
Yeah.
Gary Trowett.
Gary.
Yeah.
Just Gary will do.
Yeah, Gary will do, yeah. And replace him with Jim Francazola, who has a checkered managerial history in this country, couldn't hack it in the Premiership with West Ham, and then apparently couldn't hack it with Watford, who are doing very well, by the way, back in the Premier League.
Well, they lost to Manchester City last night, though.
They did, but I mean, they beat Everton, and beat the mighty Everton. You've got to be quite a good team, you know, when Romelu Lukaku, Lukaku
now, according
is
to my
scoring 2 goals against
the
you.
developments come in the wake of new Chinese owners who took control in October.
Ah, well, that's what I thought.
Carson Young was the guy who went to jail.
He was, yeah.
So they made 3 new boardroom appointments on Monday, right? And obviously decided that it was time to get rid of Gary Rowett and bring in this Gianfranco Zola. For what reason, nobody really seems to know.
Yes. Well, you see, it's a mystery to me. Once again, it's all this nonsense about, that man was a great footballer. In fact, I think he's been voted the Premier League footballer in England of all time in one survey at least.
Yeah.
Thierry Henry was voted the greatest footballer in another survey.
Thierry.
But he was amongst them. He was amongst them as Gianfranco. He must be a great manager.
Do you know what his last 2 jobs were?
His last 2 jobs were in Italia.
No, one was in Qatar.
Qatar.
He was running Al Arabi.
Al-Arabi.
In June, because he went to work for Cagliari down in Serie A, right? Yep. But he only lasted there about 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
And so last summer he went to Qatar. Yeah. To run Al-Arabi. And apparently he was in the running to be Hull City manager.
Was he?
Yeah.
Well, Hull City have got more brains on their board than Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I'd like to speak to the man at Birmingham who decided it's a great idea to appoint a manager whose track record in England is poor.
Yes.
And who will not do anything for Birmingham City unless he suddenly takes the I am a good manager pill twice a day for the next 6 months and becomes a good manager. It's impossible.
It's not entirely impossible.
It is impossible. I'm telling you it's impossible.
Well, you say that, but it's not entirely impossible for him to have become a better manager since all of these other jobs that he's done.
Oh, well, why didn't he do anything in Serie A?
Well, because maybe he didn't yet have the, the full
Why did he do anything out in Qatar?
Well, I don't know how he did in Qatar, but I mean, it's possible that with each job he gets better, isn't it?
Or it is possible that with each job he gets worse.
Yeah, well, you
that seems
to
be his track record so far.
Now, would you like to hear from Birmingham director Panos Pavlakis?
Yes, please.
He says, we are delighted to welcome Gianfranco and his backroom team to the club. His pedigree, philosophy and ambition fits with what we would like to achieve as we move in a new direction.
Yeah,
what's the new direction?
Well, hang on. If Gianfranco Zola was still a player, a footballer, I would agree with all of that.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's a manager. And his pedigree as a manager is poor.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes, it is poor.
So why on earth would you appoint him? I just don't get it.
And the guy that they got rid of has got them up into 7th place, right?
Yes, that's right.
So they're doing not badly.
Yeah, I bet you they don't finish 7th or higher. I bet you they finish lower than 7th.
Well, I mean, that's a very bold statement.
I'm telling you, Jimmy.
That's a very bold statement to make.
I think they'll finish below 7th. I think it's an absolutely disastrous appointment, and the fans of Birmingham City, and there's probably still a few out there, if you want to give us a call and tell us exactly what you think, please feel free, because we, of course, are your sounding board for all things football-wise. Our number is 08717 223344. Now, you probably think I'm mad calling out to Birmingham City fans at this time of the night.
Why?
But I feel we have an obligation to do it.
Ian Dante's a Birmingham City fan, isn't he?
I think he's in exile.
What do you mean in exile?
I think he's a Birmingham City fan in exile.
No, he's a Birmingham City fan, though.
I think he decided there are better places in the world to live than Birmingham, which is a bit of a telling statement if you are a Birmingham City fan.
You're an Everton fan. You live in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
Yes.
So are you an Everton fan in exile?
No, not at all.
What's the difference?
The difference is that I was born and brought up in the hinterland of what you could call the Everton catchment area, i.e.
The
Chester.
hinterland?
Yeah, the hinterland.
Is that what it's known as?
Hinterland,
Is that the Roman name?
I come from the hinterland. But, because I shot so far up the greasy pole of success in my profession, I had to move south to London in order to fulfil my promise. It would have been a waste of a human being had I not.
Waste of a human being?
Yes.
What, you calling yourself a human being now?
Yes, of course I am.
I'm not accepting that.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Bit harsh.
What's this from James? He says, what's this tune in to listen to the two mics and straight away it's the Mike Parry Everton show?
No, it's not. Honestly, it's not.
Ross says this, boys, can I have a birthday shout out, please? It's my 30th today. Much appreciated. He's getting bladderated, says Ross.
And who's that? Ross?
Ross,
it's your 30th birthday, mate. Unless you are in a position where you are earning at least £50,000 a year, unless you have your own home, unless you have a decent car at the age of 30, like I did, then I'm afraid...
Well, you had a Ford Mondeo,
Excuse me.
You had a Ford Mondeo.
Excuse me. Yeah, it was a great car in those days. I'm afraid, Ross, you've already failed.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad about yourself. You know, there's always mediocrity. You know what I mean?
What about this picture? What do you reckon of that? Looks cold, doesn't it? I bet you'll never guess where that is.
Well, that looks... I'll tell you what that is. That's two guys who are playing ice hockey on a frozen lake.
That's true.
I bet you it's Michigan.
It's not far. It's Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan,
in Canada, where apparently it's minus 22.
Golly.
And I think that's probably minus 22 Fahrenheit.
It's a great picture.
It is a great picture, isn't it?
Smashing,
James says, MG may give Mike Parry a clip on the ear plugging a Bourne movie when the two mics are trying to sell a DVD as a Christmas stocking filler.
Yeah.
I must say, I was slightly taken aback by that.
Well, listen,
when you can get the two mics DVD, why would you be pushing Jason Bourne?
Well, because you might be walking through a store and think, I'll have one for Christmas Day. You couldn't watch ours on Christmas Day, but I have to stress that whilst this is a family show, our DVD, Two Mics Live in Edinburgh, is not necessarily Christmas Day family viewing.
Well, as I said to somebody once, it does have some mature content.
It has mature content.
And they said, well, we were hoping it was rather more immature content, really, which is actually much better.
Oh, there's loads of immature content as well. Now, can I just tell you a mission I went on today?
Yeah, go on.
I went to the very post office.
Actually, there isn't any time.
No, I went to the very post office where the Two Mics DVD Live in Edinburgh DVD is sent out from.
Right.
I spoke to the staff there.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people.
Are they?
And nobody is going into industrial action in any form.
Okay.
And if you order a DVD me of the two mics. You're going to be before Christmas, no problem at all.
Did you apologise to them for announcing live on air that actually they were going to be going out of business?
No, I never said that. Never said anything like that. No.
Well, just as long as you have. Now, here's a thought for you.
Yes.
Steve has sent this in. He says, does Mike Parry know that on this day in 1944, legendary band leader Glenn Miller disappeared over the English Channel?
Not only do I know it, but I think you'll find we might be turning to that subject very shortly on this show.
Good.
And I know exactly what happened.
It's a mystery.
I know exactly what happened to Glenn Miller.
Do you?
I do.
Excellent. Well, we'll find out very soon. This is Talk Sport. Pardon me, boy.
Yeah, pardon me, boy. Yeah.
Is that the Chattanooga Choo Choo?
That's
Choo
right.
Choo.
And do you know what, Mike? I went to the Chattanooga Choo Choo
Yes, I know that.
hotel.
Yes, I know. You've told us this story about a million times.
I'm going to tell it you again because it's the anniversary.
No.
There was a lady in the foyer, and as you walked in, she said, "Pardon me, Al. Is this the Chattanooga Choo Choo?"
Why did she say Al?
Hey?
Why did she say Al?
That's the words in the
Was
song.
Mr. Brazil with you?
No.
I thought it was Pardon Me, Boy.
Pardon me, boy. I think she said, "Pardon me, Al." Honestly,
Why would she say Al?
I've no idea. But pardon me, boy.
I'm pretty sure it's Pardon Me,
Is
Boy.
this the Chattanooga Choo Choo? Yeah. But anyway, look. The reason we played that is it is the anniversary in 1944, December the 15th, of the great Glenn Miller. Sorry, we're laughing at.
Somebody just sent a very funny text in that I can't read out.
Why?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll highlight it for you.
Yeah, go on.
Parry, you're very funny, but you're also a word, which are two words, which I can't repeat.
That's very harsh. To describe me in those sorts of derogatory terms is really not playing the game.
I'll see if I can think of a way of saying it that sounds like I'm not saying it, like I did the other night.
Anyway, listen, what I wanted to say was I've studied the Glenn Miller mystery over the years, and I know exactly what happened to him.
What?
Well, he got in the aircraft.
Well, nobody else knows what happened to him.
I know what happened to him.
Well, how do you know?
Because I've told you, I've studied it over the years. What happened was he got into the aircraft and he was flying to Europe on a mission, right?
On a mission?
Yeah.
What, you mean a mission?
Well, it was...
he was going to play a show somewhere,
That was a mission. It was the reason he rejoined the military was because he wanted to contribute to the war effort, and they called his concerts missions.
Right.
In the same way that a soldier would go into war.
Like the VSO sort of thing.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. December the 15th, 4, took off from England, heading for France. Plane vanished over the English Channel. Glenn Miller never seen again. Now, what happened was, at precisely the same time, a squadron of Lancaster bombers were also flying into Europe on a bombing mission.
Yeah.
And they had come from the East Anglia area, sort of Suffolk.
Well, like Lakenheath, that kind of area.
Sort of Lakenheath, somewhere like that. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
And what happened was, as they got over Europe, there was dense fog and cloud.
Yeah.
And they were recalled. They said the bombing mission is too dangerous. We cannot be precise. The bomb aimers who lay in the bottom of the plane, mate. In fact, your father was a bomb aimer, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't. He was a navigator.
A navigator.
Yeah.
Okay. Same.
No, he wasn't anywhere near the bomb bay.
No, same.
As it were.
Same air crew, but he was just navigating on a bomb aimer.
The navigator
right?
sat up where the pilot was.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. The bomb aimers couldn't see anything. It was dense clouds. Couldn't see the ground.
Yeah.
The bomber Harris, who was in charge.
What were they aiming at then?
They were aiming at industrial locations in Europe, and they'd already taken a lot of stick for hitting
but what I'm saying is
areas.
They couldn't see anything. Then how could they possibly aim for something?
They couldn't. This is the whole point.
Right.
This is, if you listen, I'll tell you the story.
Right.
So what happened was Bomber Harris ordered them to return. So they turned back over the Dutch-Belgian border and came back to England.
Right.
The problem is, it is very, very dangerous to land Lancaster bombers with a full payload of bombs.
Indeed.
Because if you do...
In the same way that it's dangerous to land an aircraft with a full fuel tank.
Absolutely right.
Which is why they jettison the fuel.
Absolutely right, because in the...
Usually over Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, actually.
Yes, that's right, they do. Because in the event of the wheels collapsing as you come down onto the runway, the whole thing would blow up and it'd be very dangerous.
Yeah.
So they jettisoned the bombs. Unfortunately, when they jettisoned the bombs at the height they were, which was some 6,000 feet... The bombs tumbled out of the bomb bay, and the Lancaster bombers went spiralling down into the English Channel and hit Glenn Miller's plane, which was coming the other way, as the bombs were going down.
It's pretty unlucky, that, isn't it?
It was very unlucky indeed,
Yeah.
and it took the plane down with him, and that's one of the reasons why nobody ever found any wreckage.
Yeah.
Because one of the bombs...
Why are you the only person that's come up with this theory?
Well, I'm not the only person who come up with the theory. It's one of a dozen theories about Glenn Miller, but that...
So it's just a theory then?
No. I've studied studied all the other theories, and this is the only one that makes any sense at all.
Let me tell you what the experts say.
Okay.
The theory that the plane was hit by a bomb jettisoned by Allied planes returning from an aborted bombing raid on Germany is discredited by the log of a plane spotter that implies that the plane was heading in a direction that would avoid the zone where such bombs were jettisoned.
No.
So there goes your theory.
No, that's just a theory, mate. That's just a theory.
No, there is a log of where the planes were, which would drop and jettison the bomb, right? Which was nowhere near where Glenn Miller's plane was.
No, nobody knew where Glenn Miller's plane was. It got lost in the fog.
Incorrect.
No, that's not incorrect. That is absolutely true. You've got to bring all the facts together and get them right before you mislead our millions of listeners.
You have no evidence that this happened, right?
By the way,
on the other hand, those who know that it didn't happen have evidence that a plane spotter made a log of exactly where the planes were.
No, you can't in fog. How can you can't possibly do that?
Radar.
Sorry?
They had radar.
Yeah, radar was not available to anybody except the highest ranks of the RAF. Even the Germans didn't know we had radar. That's how secretive radar was.
Yeah, but there was no point in having it if you didn't use it.
We couldn't have won the Second World War without radar.
Exactly.
But and if Hermann Göring...
people who knew about the radar knew where the planes were.
Yeah, if Hermann Göring had not changed his mind and told his planes to start bombing London instead of keep bombing the radar sites and the RAF airfields, we would now be under the yoke of German rule, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, we sort of are anyway, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I suppose commercially.
That's why Brexit's happened.
But listen, I bet you don't know which musical instrument Glenn Miller majored in.
What did he major in?
Yeah.
Well, he was a brass man, wasn't he? I mean, would you not have said that he played a variety of brass instruments, such as he would play the trumpet, perhaps the cornet, perhaps he would play the trombone?
He was a world expert in the trombone. You've got a third guess.
It's not a third guess. I knew that he was a specialist in brass instruments.
No, he was a world expert in the trombone.
Sounds like a very difficult instrument to play, the trombone. Have you ever tried?
No, of course I haven't.
No?
No. Why would you?
Well, because it's something that we might try as a curiosity.
Is that the one where you move the handle in and out while you're playing it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Sort of...
it's quite an ungainly looking thing.
I tell you, used to play that. Old Kenny, what's his name?
Kenny Ball.
Kenny Ball, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he did.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to play the trumpet very unsuccessfully. I've also tried to... You know, the last post... that they play through
on a bugle.
On a bugle.
Well, that looks pretty easy to me.
Very difficult.
Are those valves on the top of the bugle the ones you have to manipulate with your fingers while you're playing the last post and all that? Yeah,
but it's not so much about that. It's about the way that you breathe into the device.
Yeah.
You know,
okay,
and the way that you can blow the air through it.
Yes,
and that is a real skill.
See, it says here, Glenn Miller
died...
died...
interested in anything I say.
I am, but I have to counter your discrediting my theory. Glenn Miller died under a hail of British bombs. It says it here all the time, everyone. Glenn Miller was on top of his game.
It says it all the time, everyone.
Everybody's talking about it. Right, the disappearance of Glenn Miller. Glenn Miller mystery.
Everybody's talking about it.
Here we go. Glenn Miller mystery solved at last 65 years after an alleged plane crash in the English Channel.
Is that a weekly world news you're reading?
No, the truth.
Yeah. What organ is this you're reading it from?
Well, hang on. Excuse me.
No, it's an organ. It's called an organ.
No, it's on my information device.
Yeah, but there must be a source. Which source are you crediting?
It's
the National Enquirer.
No, it's the military paper.
The military paper?
Yes.
What's it called?
It says Gift Gaff here, but that can't be right.
Gift Gaff.
What's that? What's Gift Gaff?
Gift Gaff is a mobile phone company.
Oh, is it? Right, okay. It's not that one.
It's also a Twitter handle.
I seem to have got a bit lost here.
You've got a bit lost, haven't you? A bit like Glenn Miller.
No.
Be careful a bomb doesn't drop on you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it could be a problem, couldn't it? But no, quite seriously, you tell me then how he did die. Go on.
I don't know. It's a mystery. That's the whole point.
No.
Nobody knows for sure.
Hang on. Are you so stupid that you can't come up with your own theory after reading all the evidence? Haven't you read all the evidence? Because I have.
I haven't read all the evidence.
I have.
Because it's almost impossible to read all the evidence.
I'll tell you what happened to me.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, right, I was sitting there at home, you know, in Laurel Grove in Chester, watching the telly, and the Glenn Miller story was on.
Really?
You know...
who was starring in it? Who was starring in the Glenn Miller story?
Wasn't it the bloke who was in On Golden Pond?
What? Henry Fonda?
Henry Fonda.
I don't know.
I think he played him.
He was in 12 Angry Men.
Oh, was he? Anyway, so we're sitting there. My parents were saying, "Oh, it's such a tragedy and all that." I made it my mission in life to go and find out what happened to Glenn Miller, so I could tell my parents.
Right.
So I went off and I studied it, and I came back with the theory that I'm afraid he got hit by a bomb from a Lancaster bomber.
Well, because you read it in somebody's theory.
No, because I researched it thoroughly, and that is what happened. Honestly, that is what happened. I mean,
you may be convinced that that's what happened, but
you can't come up with an alternative theory, can you?
I'm assuming that because it was foggy, and the plane probably disappeared into the sea.
Okay.
Simple.
And where was the wreckage then? Where was the wreckage?
The wreckage is not able to be found. Maybe it's on the seabed.
No.
I mean,
Wreckage
English
floats.
Channel.
Wreckage floats.
It doesn't always float.
Do you know what flotsam and jetsam is?
No, but I think you're going to tell me.
Stuff that floats on the surface of the water.
But there have been many plane crashes. For example, the one in southeastern Asia.
Yes.
You know, the Malaysian Airlines plane. And they found bits of the aircraft, they think, but they're not sure.
But that's an airliner that came from 50,000 feet, weighed, 280,000 tons or something, and hit the water down and went to the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
This was a light aircraft. When a light aircraft hits the sea, it doesn't go straight to the bottom.
Was it not a quite a big aircraft?
No, it wasn't. It was a light aircraft.
Well, maybe it completely disintegrated on smashing into the sea.
I'm sure it did, but it still would have been washed ashore somewhere, you see. So, anyway, look, now we've sorted that one, we can move on, can't we, with the rest of the show, because there's plenty to talk about.
I've got another question for you.
Oh, yes.
This is from William. Yahoo has just announced that 1 billion users' accounts may have been hacked. It could be the biggest hack in history. Struck me that maybe you'd been a victim of that, because you were having trouble with your emails. I wonder if you've got a Yahoo problem here.
I'm not. I don't register as a Yahoo anyway.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty
sure. Are you
sure
you haven't got a Yahoo account anyway?
No, I haven't. I have definitely not got a Yahoo account, okay?
Because that would explain a lot.
No, I'm all sorted now.
Craig says apparently Glenn Miller was played by James Stewart.
James Stewart, that's the guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
He was also It's a Wonderful Life man, wasn't he? Which will be on again at Christmas.
What was that famous... it will be. What was that famous song about... hang on, it was Pennsylvania 36000, wasn't it?
I don't think that's the right number,
wasn't it?
But it was certainly Pennsylvania something.
Because it was all written about Penn Station, wasn't it, in New York? Madison Square Garden. Yeah, Pennsylvania 36000.
I don't think it was 36000. I really don't think.
That was about his girlfriend, wasn't it?
It was Pennsylvania 65000.
Oh, that was it. Well, that was close, wasn't it?
Well, that's no use if you're ringing somebody. It's the wrong number.
Pennsylvania 65000.
It's the wrong number.
So maybe it was the wrong number, yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
You got the number wrong.
Are you a fan of the big band sound?
Not really, no, to be
Have
honest.
you not got any of this that you play from time to time?
No.
Really?
I mean, only somebody living in the past would actually go out and buy a Glenn Miller record these days, wouldn't they?
Somebody living in the
past?
No,
they would,
like who?
Well, you get these weirdos who spend their life going around sort of boot sales and all that, buying 1950s type furniture and 1950s type clothes, and you go in their house and
retro people.
Yeah, retro people. And, they've got a blinking, Hoover that was made in 1949 and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they actually live in that sort of ridiculous...
No.
They do.
No.
They live in this...
That's rubbish. I mean, there are people who like...
time warp.
No, there are people who like jazz music from a certain era. It doesn't mean they've got a Hoover from 1952.
No, honest to God, there are. There are people who like living in that, folks. Family show.
No, he didn't say what you think he said.
When we were in Fleet Street, used to do these features all the time on these nutters who used to, go out and buy...
that was about 30 years ago.
Yeah, but they're still doing them.
I don't think so.
People still do it. But
I
anyway,
don't think so.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, can you imagine anybody being at home, relaxing on their new sort of leather couches and saying, put a bit of Glenn Miller on. And then lying there,
Moonlight Serenade. I don't mind a bit of it once in a while. It's nice. I mean, I hope we're going to play... You seem to know it very well, considering you don't like it.
Well, I've seen that film, haven't I? I've seen the film, Glenn Miller's Story.
Well, yeah, you said you saw it when you were about 10.
Yeah, I did, yeah, but I've remembered ever since. I've got a photographic memory.
I've noticed that, yeah. Now, here's a story that I think is far more modern. As we get back into the modern age. You see this one about the woman who, they're calling it, she hacked her fridge, but it's not really a hack of the fridge.
Right.
She's got one of these new fridges, which contains a water dispenser, right?
Yes.
As it does an ice dispenser.
Yes.
I don't know whether you've got one of these, have you?
No.
You were supposed to be getting a new fridge, weren't you?
I still am.
You still are?
Yeah.
Well, that means you haven't got one yet.
No, I haven't, yeah.
Well, are you thinking of getting one of those big American-style double-door fridges?
Well, I don't know which property it's going into yet,
really?
So I've hedged my bets.
But I thought you needed a new one because the fridge freezer one was busted.
Well, it's not necessarily busted, but I'm thinking of relocating...
Or it sealed itself up or something.
I'm thinking of relocating my own abode, you see. So
what?
I'm
are you moving?
Maybe.
What, from Stockbroker Belt, Surrey?
To another part of Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank God for that. I think you might be moving back closer to London or
something.
No. Oh, right, okay. Anyway, you will remember these fridges from America where you can, you press your glass in, you get ice in it, or you get water, right?
Absolutely.
Well, this woman bought a new fridge, and not only did it have the water dispenser, but it also had a wine rack.
Right.
So that you could keep the wine cool. She suddenly had a great idea of actually pouring the wine straight into the water dispenser. So basically, what she does is you just have wine on tap.
That's lovely. Good idea. Very good idea.
I think this would suit you down to the ground. So what I'm saying to you,
it's a great idea.
What I'm saying to you is that if you think about it and you're going to buy a new fridge, get one that's got the water dispenser.
Excellent.
And it keeps water in a cooled area, and you just fill it up with wine.
Well, that's great because when you're moseying around with your friends, moving around the kitchen and all that kind of stuff, so help yourself to a glass of wine.
And you don't have to keep opening bottles.
Brilliant.
I presume it would probably hold 2 or 3 litres, right?
I'm sure it would. It's a great idea. Great idea.
And you can I can send you the details of how to make it happen.
How to make what happen?
Well, just how to do it.
Well, I know how to do it. You just get the bottle and instead of putting water into the container, you just put the wine in.
Well, I don't think it's that simple.
Any half-baked could work that one out, I'm telling you.
She says this, I literally just poured wine in the tank that you're supposed to put water in.
Yes.
However, she says there's a filter, so it works even better if you take the filter out.
I suppose
the filter is for the water,
of course,
but you wouldn't necessarily want to filter the wine.
What does the filter do?
Well, the filter purifies the water.
But the water should be in good shape when you put it in. It shouldn't need filtering, to be honest.
The point is that the fridge is plumb, generally speaking, because in order for you, it's not just a water tank.
Ah, no, I see what you mean.
It's normally a plumbed fridge.
Yeah, I understand, yes.
So you might have to do something to cut the water supply off.
Take the filter out, I totally agree.
Well, yeah, but also you'd have to be careful not to allow the water into the wine.
Yes.
Because otherwise it'd be the miracle of Cana in reverse.
Yes, it certainly would.
Turn wine into water.
Yeah, not a good idea,
Nobody wants that.
Not a good idea.
No.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, anyway, I just thought I'd give you that little tip.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. I wanted to know all about that.
Yeah.
Now, after looking at the football results last night, of course, I have spoken to a couple of Arsenal fans since. They say their season is already over. They say they say now it's the same old pattern, same old problem, Arsenal collapso and incapable of bringing it back. And you have to say, when you look at it, who can disagree?
Well, Sophie Nicolau didn't have that view last night.
No, she didn't. No.
I mean, she was quite buoyant and said that, let's wait until, February.
Yeah.
Let's wait and see how things pan out over Christmas. And let's see what teams suffer injuries and what teams suffer lack of form. I think it's too early to call it. Okay. Are you saying this has happened because Liverpool have jumped over them and are now third?
Well, Liverpool scored more goals, you say. They scored 3, didn't they? So that got them up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's something we'll come back to. Now, listen, talking about history and mysteries and all that kind of stuff.
History
Guess what?
And mystery, I like it.
The mystery of history.
Yeah.
Looking through my historical journals.
Oh, yeah.
Not only did I today check up on the...
Oh, by the way, sorry, I should have told you this earlier. Apparently there's a massive fire on the M3 at the Fleet Services. You'll know them well.
I know them very well.
Apparently over 50 firefighters are involved.
Wow.
So we'll keep an eye on that.
That's, you know how many appliances that is?
50, I would
12.
imagine it must be... Is it?
12.
How do you get 12 into 50?
There's either 4 or 5 men to an appliance, depending on the
all of
services.
that?
No.
Isn't it all like 6?
No, not at all.
You sure?
You had a driver and a guy sitting next to him, and you had 3 in the back seats.
In the back seat?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
They'd have somebody on the back sort of wailing around.
No, that went years ago.
Did it?
Did I get a guy riding shotgun on the back of the fire engine?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
One of the first things, by the way...
I went round Chicago with the Chicago Fire Department. When you know that film Backdraft?
Yes.
It was all filmed, and it was supposed to be a true story.
Oh, I see.
And so I was sent to spend the night.
Really?
With, driving around the city with the fire department. It was great. It's fantastic.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because what I was going to say was the first time I sort of realised what a different language English is to American was when I got into, the first time I was in America and I was talking to somebody about fire and all that. And I said, oh, no, in England we have the fire brigade.
Yeah.
And this guy started laughing.
They fall about laughing. I
said, what are you laughing at?
Because it sounds comical.
He said, the fire brigade? He said, what is this? Is there some kind of Keystone Cops film, the fire brigade?
That's what it sounds like.
I said, that's what we call them, the fire brigade. What do you call them? We call them the fire and rescue service, which is, of course, what we now call them in this country, sort of 20 years on or 25 years on.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, but I mean, that is serious. That is, it's very serious because Fleet Services is a very big service station, vital to travellers, really. You knock that out and you've knocked out a major facility.
If they have to close down the M3.
By the way,
Tarquin sent this in talking about just the difference in American and English, right?
Yes.
Listen to an interview with Bobcat Bob after the game, and he said, resiliency on the road is what we need.
Yeah.
Bad Americanism.
What he said was, resiliency on the road when you're 1 down to 0. I mean, it's brilliant, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I get you now, boy!
He was on Talk Sport, actually, yesterday morning on Tim White Show, and he was very good,
yeah,
actually.
He
talks a good game.
I'm sure he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But
you know what irritates me slightly, sorry to keep interrupting
That's all right.
is he keeps referring to the Premier League
as
the Premier League.
The Premier League!
Because in America, that's how you pronounce it, right? But surely somebody should say to him in his ear down in Swansea, I'm sorry, Bobcat, would you mind just referring to it as the Premier League?
That's right,
as opposed to the Premier League.
In the Premier League, you got to keep going to the end when you're down 1-0. Yeah. Okay, Bob.
Yeah, go on. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, so get back to the historical thing. Now, I've discovered through research what exactly happened to the Light Brigade, okay?
Oh, yeah? Well, they charged, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but
not very successfully.
Not very successfully at all. Now, what happened was, because I've been doing this research for a while, remember it was all in the Valley of Death.
Yes.
Famous poem.
Into the Valley of Death.
Who wrote that famous
poem? Wasn't it Tennyson?
No, William Tennyson. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. So, William Tennyson, Into the Valley of Death. Yea, though I fear no evil, I ride into the shadow of the Valley of Death, yeah?
No, isn't that the... you're thinking of the Psalm, aren't you? The Lord is my shepherd.
Oh, that's right, yeah, I think
you're mixing it up.
Yeah, anyway.
That's more of a religious thing.
Yeah, anyway, what I was going to say...
On again,
I fear no evil,
No, that's the Lord is my shepherd.
Is it? Okay. Anyway...
Everybody knows there aren't any shepherds anymore, because you told us. There's a shepherd shortage.
If we don't renew the shepherd population in places like the fell lands of Cumbria and all that, we'll all starve to death.
Yeah.
Because you can't have shepherds without you can't have sheep without shepherds. If we haven't got any sheep, we haven't got any meat.
Yeah.
No, it's true. All the shepherds wanted the bright light, so they all pushed off to places like Barrow-in-Furness, which they think is like, bright light territory, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
in fact, Barrow-in-Furness is one of the worst towns I've ever been to in my life.
Why are you slagging off Barrow-in-Furness?
No, I'm not slagging it off, but it's dominated by the VSOL works that build secret submarines, okay? And everybody works there, and not much else happened in Barrow-in-Furness.
Yes.
It's on a peninsula.
I knew somebody from Barrow-in-Furness.
Yeah, it's on a peninsula. You have to go up into Lancashire and then turn left and do a horseshoe and come down again.
Right.
And that's Barrow.
It's not a place I've spent much time, to be fair.
It's not renowned for its great social scene.
No.
Now
it's
then,
Alfred Lord Tennyson, by the way.
Alfred Lord Tennyson, that's the guy, yeah. Now then, what has happened is that we historical researchers have found a letter which sheds light on the actual individual who's responsible for the massacre of the Light Brigade.
Uh-huh.
You know when the message went back to London, by the way?
It was Crimea, wasn't it?
It was Crimea, yeah.
I mean, interestingly, just because Crimea is now very much in the news.
No, absolutely. It was Sebastopol.
Yeah.
And it was the Russian guns that they had to go and seize. But the Raglan, in the end, had to send a message back to London saying, we have lost the Light Brigade.
Yeah.
And, of course, back in London, what was then the War Office, it's now called the Ministry of Defence, they said, the Light Brigade have gone off somewhere and we can't find them. That's what they thought had happened. In fact, been wiped out. What happened was a 36-year-old junior officer called Captain Louis Nolan incorrectly delivered the orders of Lord Raglan.
Right.
Raglan had intended to send the brigade to prevent the Russian removing artillery that they had captured from the British during an earlier Crimean War battle. In the event, on October the 25th, 1854, the cavalry were dispatched on a suicidal frontal assault against a different artillery battery surrounded on three sides by Russian guns.
How is this different from what he thought he was going to do?
Well, he misread the order.
Right.
He was told to go and mop up from the scene of another battle and bring back whatever artillery was left over.
I see.
He misread the instruction and galloped into the face of the Russian guns.
Into the jaws of death.
Into the jaws of death.
Into the mouth of hell.
Into the mouth of hell on three sides of the valley.
Yeah.
The letter written by Lieutenant Frederick Maxey.
At the time.
We know a guy called Maxey, don't we? He works on
Maxey?
Talk Radio. Yeah, old Maxey, yeah.
What?
Maxey.
Do you mean James Max?
Yeah, him. I call him
Maxey.
One of the soldiers at Balaclava has been found among documents at the British Library more than 160 years after the battle.
Well, it's been found at the British Library?
Yes. The military defeat was one of the worst in history of the British Empire.
Well, surely if it's been at the British Library all this time, somebody should have known about it.
Well, this is what historical researchers do. They find these letters. Lord Raglan's written instruction to Lord Lucan Not the guy,
Lord
by
Lucan.
the way.
I know he was involved.
Yeah, he was, but not the guy who murdered his wife recently.
Not that recently.
No. Who was commanding the brigade, instructed him to follow the enemy and try to prevent the enemy from carrying away the guns.
Right.
But according to Saul David, who teaches military history at the University of Buckingham,
right.
Maxey's letter...
University of Buckingham?
Buckingham, yeah.
That's not a university.
Well,
don't give me that rubbish.
Apparently it is.
No.
Says that Captain Nolan, who fancied himself as a strategist... So I'm afraid he got a bit above himself.
I'm sure it wasn't the fancy systems involved.
Yeah, he got a bit above himself, didn't he? There with
I've had an idea.
Pretty severe consequences.
Yeah.
Over-egged the orders. Addressing Lord Lucan, Captain Nolan gestured towards the Russian forces and said, "There, my lord, is your enemy.
Yeah.
There are your guns. Charge!"
Dear God. So it was a blunder, basically.
He was
idiotic,
killed. He was killed after insisting on leading the charge.
Yeah.
He was the first victim.
Yeah. Shocking, really.
Yeah,
absolutely awful.
terrible.
But a terrific poem, I have to say.
Yes.
And a very good film as well, which we may talk about a little bit later on. Coming up next, though, Simon Johnson's going to join us. He was watching Chelsea beat Sunderland last night.
Yeah.
More misery for David Moyes. And, of course, Chelsea now 6 points clear at the top of the table.
Indeedy.
This is TalkSport. We are the two. Mike Sandra Lee's coming up a little bit later on in the show with all the news from Down Under. It's also Porky Vision, of course, the best TV review this side of Uluru, which, of course, you know, right? Over there in Australia.
Uluru, yeah, I do, yeah.
Used to be known as?
It used to be known as Ayers Rock.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk to Simon Johnson, who was up covering the Sunderland-Chelsea game for the Standard. He's staying up there rather than coming back on the dreaded motorway. But he's not staying in Sunderland, he's staying in Newcastle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why that would be.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a bit of an insult to the people of Sunderland, isn't it?
I don't know. Maybe it's full.
You know, all these smart guys from London get up into the northeast and think Sunderland is not worth staying in.
Well, that may be true. Simon, very good morning to you.
Good evening, chaps.
Yes. Can you explain this blunder of yours? Why have you not decided to stay in Sunderland?
I wouldn't say it's a blunder. I'd say it's a tactical move.
Yes.
Because let's just say I'm aware that post-match there was best chance for a post-match tipple in Newcastle than in Sunderland.
I see.
Are you saying Newcastle's open later than Sunderland?
Yeah, just slightly.
No, what you're saying is Newcastle's open and Sunderland isn't.
Yeah, Sunderland shut a bit like their defence and their tactics earlier on, which was shut up shop and hope for the best.
Yes, it didn't work too well for old David Moyes. I mean, he's had a sort of a couple of decent results of late, but he's still bottom of the table.
Yeah, I mean, I had to. I must admit, I snorted with derision when he came out in his post-match press conference and said, "Yes, we gave it a real good go," because anyone that was there last night would have seen a team that made West Brom's performance on Sunday at Stamford Bridge look really adventurous and exciting to watch. Because on regular occasions, we're talking 10 players within 30 yards of their own goal, with Jermaine Defoe inside his own half. Now, I'm no football coach, but it's going to be very hard to score a goal from that position. And yes, of course, you understand it. They're playing against the league leaders, a team that had come into the game off the back of 9 successive wins. But you've got to try and show some sort of thing just to get the crowd going, if nothing else. And I just sort of noticed that the Sunderland crowd were just completely taken out of the game because they were so depressed about the quality of football they were watching.
Yeah. I mean, the trouble is David Moyes can have that effect on a team, can't he? I mean, with Sam Allardyce, you'd always know that he'd be jumping up and down on the touchline. He'd be doing something to try and, rescue a point or anything. But with Moyes, there's a sort of inevitability of doom about him, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can only go back. We're talking about 8 months to when Allardyce was in charge of Sunderland and led his side to a 3-2 win over Chelsea. And you couldn't see a bigger contrast between two Sunderland teams if you tried. And the crowd, I remember back to April, that they were so full of belief and optimism. And last night, honestly, the noise they made when their teams won a corner. It was almost like they'd won a trophy. Yeah. It was kind of like, wow, we've won a corner, it's time to celebrate. And it's quite like I said, if I was a Sunderland season ticket holder right now, I'd be very worried about the future and also very bored by what I was watching in front of me.
The thing is, Simon, that those fans really, they're not that depressed because they know they've been living on borrowed time for the last 4 years. And, inevitably, it's all going to crash down around their ankles. And quite frankly, they look a little bit north and they see Newcastle running away now at the top of the Championship. And Newcastle, even though they're in a league below, are having a lot better season. The fans at Newcastle are having a great time. They're seeing their team thrash everybody when they come to Newcastle. They're seeing the team at the top of the Championship. And actually, that's better than struggling where Newcastle are, where Sunderland are, at the bottom of the Premier League.
Well, I've heard it many times, Mike, that sometimes it's good for a team to go down to sort of almost rebuild again and rebuild the excitement, the passion. I mean, I remember when Sunderland went down and came back up in the late 90s.
Yes.
And there was a real buzz around the place. Now it's just so resigned to, here we are, another relegation battle.
That's right.
Can we survive it? Will we have to change manager? Of course, I think the chief executive only came out the day before the game and said there's no money to spend or very little money to spend on new players. You just get a real feeling around the club that there's an element of inevitability.
Yeah, it's misery.
Eventually their luck will run out and they will be relegated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just misery. And actually, the Sunderland fans, sometimes when you're in a terribly pressurised job and eventually the chief executive walks in and says, look, I'm sorry, it's all over, your initial response is relief. Oh, that's good. That's great. I'm going to go out and get bladderated. I'm free. And the fans will feel like that when they get relegated.
They might do, but the trouble is, like you have said earlier, Simon, I mean, if you get relegated and somehow get relegated the wrong way and the confidence is all gone and some of the players then leave and the manager's not really the right guy, they don't do what happened. I mean, the reason Newcastle are doing so well, I would say, is because they were smart enough to spend the money to keep Rafa Benitez on.
Yeah, very much so. And they still have a lot of quality players there. You look at, whilst I said sometimes it can be good to go down to come back up again, there's numerous clubs where that clearly hasn't worked out. And you only have to look at, for example, QPR, who are now in dire trouble, both in their position in the Championship and financially. And you sort of think, how is this club ever going to bounce back?
Yes.
Because they no longer have the quality of squad, and also they no longer have the budget to improve it. So it's a double-edged sword, and they're only going one way at the moment too. And that the worry for their fans is that they could be like a club like Wolves, who bounced down a couple of divisions, that they could be heading to League One now.
Well, you could be absolutely right. Now, let's look at Chelsea, Simon. Unassailably now, 6 points ahead coming into Christmas. That's a very, very strong position, considering that the clubs below them, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, are all having split personality seasons.
Yeah, very much so. I think you can't underestimate the psychological impacts that it must have on the other clubs to basically have a team that, no matter what you do, is winning every single week. And of course, they matched the club record of 10 successive league wins in a season last night. And the thing that makes Chelsea so dangerous is that, unlike, you'd say, all the other teams, maybe Tottenham accepted, they've got a very strong defence. They don't concede goals, but they also have the quality of attacking talent to always nick one at the end. So we haven't really seen Chelsea at their best in the last few games.
And they're also not distracted by Europe, are they?
No, I do think that's been somewhat over-exaggerated in that I think back to teams in the quality of the Manchester United teams, the Liverpool teams, the Chelsea teams even, in the 2000s who were able to compete on all fronts. They were playing Champions League in midweek and then one at the weekend. I do think there's an element of the other clubs that are currently in Europe using that as an excuse to disguise their own deficiencies. Certainly the coaches, it does them no harm at all to say, it's because we're not playing in Europe, that's why we're not doing very well. But I don't actually think that's the case. Yes, Chelsea and Liverpool have a bit of an advantage, but I do think it's been a little bit over-exaggerated, and that it can also be...
Those teams you describe, Manchester United and Chelsea, who were able to compete on all fronts, were very unusual teams, though. I mean, Arsenal obviously clearly can't compete on all fronts. Manchester United certainly won't be able to with Europa League action going on. Spurs have proved in the past that they can't do it either. So, basically, Liverpool are the only team to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Chelsea, you would sort of think Liverpool. I still think you'd say Arsenal, but I mean Liverpool. The problem they have is they very much resemble the team that came so close but so far under Brendan Rodgers. And that yes, they're very good going forward, but they can see goals. Arsenal, the question mark is, and it was shown superbly by Everton the night before, that there's still this question mark about how brittle they are when a team gets stuck into them. I noticed the moment that Everton stopped sitting off them and started putting tackles in, that Arsenal suddenly were like, oh, what's all this about? Someone's actually trying to stop us from playing football, and they didn't like it. Yeah. And you felt psychologically that the game was almost lost at that point, the moment that Everton started putting their foot in. Yeah. So I just think at the moment, and I emphasise at the moment, because Chelsea themselves, you think of the transformation that they made since September, things can suddenly change. Yes. But at the moment, you just think there's a lot of teams with weaknesses, and Chelsea are good going forward, and at the back, they can play pretty stuff, they can play the ugly way. At the moment, they tick all the boxes.
And they've revived Cesc Fabregas as well.
Very much so. I think he... apart from Chelsea's bank manager, he's the next one to benefit from Oscar's imminent departure to China. Yes, because that has definitely freed up a place in the squad. I think beforehand, Conte was very hesitant to pick him, but now he sees that against defensive teams like your Sunderlands, like your West Broms, that you don't need two defensive players in the middle of the pitch. You can play Fabregas next to Kante, and he's going to unlock the door and like last night, score a superb goal in the bottom corner.
That's right, pick the lock, so to speak.
And over the Christmas period, Chelsea's fixtures are relatively sort of easy, shall we say, compared to some other teams at the top, right?
Yeah, I mean, Crystal Palace on Saturday, followed by 2 home games against Bournemouth and Stoke. So yes, on paper you would sort of say there could be 9 points in the taking here, but I always sort of think that it can turn at any moment. I mean, if you only have to use Manchester City as an example, a team that won their first 10 games, everyone was basically already gift-wrapping the Premier League trophy and sort of with to unwrap in May. You know, that it was theirs already to lose. And look what's happened to them since. They've only won 4 games in the last 13, 14. So
Simon, we've got to let you go. Thanks very much indeed.
Simon, thank you very much.
Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mites. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. Tomorrow, it is, of course, the Porky quiz. I have to point out to you, Mr. Parry, that we haven't as yet formulated a Porky quiz subject.
What about Glenn Miller?
Glenn Miller?
Yes.
Have we not done Glenn Miller?
No.
I think we have.
No, we haven't.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely certain.
All right.
We've never done Glenn
You
Miller.
want to do Glenn Miller?
Let's do Glenn Miller.
Okay.
Okay?
Glenn Miller.
You all right with that?
I'm fine with that.
Good.
It's nothing to do with me. All I do is I take your instructions
and then
I pass them on to the independent quizmasters.
And then we can play a bit of Glenn Miller music.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to set the questions as well?
No, I won't set the questions. That'll be done by you.
No, it will be done by the independent quizmasters.
Oh, yeah. Who are these independent quizmasters?
I can't reveal them.
No, why is that then?
Well, because it's like the old business of the, when they do the Oscars, when they do the BAFTAs, they always get an accountancy firm in to ensure that there's been no jiggery-pokery or gerrymandering of the results and of the voting process. And so it's imperative that the people who vote or who set the questions, in this case, remain anonymous.
Quite right. Hey, listen, by the way, talking about music, do you remember that great song by, I think it was Peter Gabriel, and it starts off something about, I went for a walk on Salisbury Hill. Yeah? So
you mean climbing up on Salisbury Hill?
Oh, is that it? Yeah.
It's not Salisbury Hill, it's Salisbury Hill.
Ah, well, you see, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Climbing up on Salisbury Hill.
It's not Salisbury Hill.
How do you think it's spelt?
It's Salisbury Hill.
How's it spelt?
It's Solsbury.
Well, that's right, actually.
Thank you. I used to live there.
And it's in Somerset, right?
Yeah, and it's right outside of Bath.
So, yeah, that's right. Climbing up on Salisbury Hill.
Yes.
Da, 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 da.
It's got a meteorological vein on the top of it as well.
That's right, yeah,
It's a weather point.
Now, the point is, it is a beautiful landscape, okay?
It is gorgeous.
And people, for miles around, buy houses just to be able to look up to Salisbury Hill.
If they can afford them.
If they can afford them, they can afford them. Now, I'm going to show you something
I've been
shocking.
up there, by the way.
You've been up there?
Yeah,
okay, yeah. Now then, there's a terrible dispute going on here because what happened is that a lady who lives in one of the said houses that you're talking about applied for planning permission.
I wasn't talking about the houses.
You did.
They're expensive.
They're very expensive, yeah. Well, so you were talking about them.
Well, no, you started it. And I just said the houses are very expensive.
Yes, so you have been talking about them.
Well, not really. I wouldn't categorise that as talking about the houses.
Well, you mentioned the houses,
I
didn't
responded to you mentioning them.
Yeah, okay. Don't split hairs
All
because you're starting to annoy me and I might mash your face off. Now then...
I very much doubt that.
So this lady is called Betty Kelly. She's 89.
Okay.
And she chose her hilltop bungalow in Bathampton.
Bathampton's a beautiful place.
Okay.
Yeah. A friend of mine used to live there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. For the idyllic countryside and the view of the hill.
Yes.
Right. Now then, the problem is another lady called Valerie Vivian.
Valerie Vivian?
Yes.
That's an unusual name.
Unusual name. She's 70.
Right.
And she lives in a house between the lady I've just spoken to you about and Salisbury Hill, okay?
Okay.
And so what happened was this lady, the second lady, applied for planning permission to build some properties on a part of the land that she owns in that view up to Salisbury Hill.
I'm pretty sure Bathampton, if I'm not mistaken, and John will probably know this because he's from that part of the world as well, has a little toll bridge. It's one of those tiny little toll bridges, which wasn't very expensive, but you couldn't get across the Avon at that
I understand what you're saying.
You know, unless you paid a toll, which was something like 20p.
Do you know what? There's a toll bridge somewhere out towards, is it Surrey or Sussex? And I can't remember exactly where it is now, but you have to actually pay, like...
you have to pay a guy that's standing there.
25p or something to go across it. Yeah. But anyway, look, the point of this story is, quite a good story is that Ms. Vivian, right, applied for this planning permission, didn't get it.
Right.
Now, since then, and you can't use terms like in retribution or as an act of revenge or something like that, since then, and this happened some years ago, she's been growing a Lalandi hedge, okay?
Yes.
The Lalandi hedge now is 50 feet tall.
Yes, they grow like
bilio. And has completely obliterated the view of Salisbury Hill for the people who live beyond her. Because they used to look over her land towards Salisbury Hill. They now can't see it. And under the High Hedges section of the Antisocial Behaviour Act, councils can order hedges to be cut if they're a barrier to light or access. But in this case, because it's the end of one garden, the start of another... the law can't act because the garden's sunlight has not been interrupted. It's just a view. Yeah. And there is no...
that must be dreadful, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to show you two pictures here because if you know the area, you'll understand exactly what's happened. The top picture is the view that the first lady had, the 89-year-old lady, when she first bought it.
That's
the
awful,
second one is the view now that the second lady has grown this...
that's horrendous.
Completely obliterated the view of Salisbury Hill. Now, that shouldn't be allowed, should it?
No, it shouldn't. I mean, there have been many, many disputes over these leylandis, for many years, because they grow like sort of weeds, effectively.
That's right.
And they can grow sort of 10 feet a year.
Yes, that's right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's appalling.
It is appalling, isn't it? I mean, for instance...
But there's nothing she can do, apparently.
Absolutely nothing to do about it. Now, I mean, for instance, you have you've been to my place in Gosport.
Well, very briefly.
Well, no, you sat there one evening while there was a fireworks show on,
very briefly. We were there for about half an hour.
Well, okay. Well,
and it was dark.
Look, you don't have to sound so ungrateful, you know what I mean?
Well, you told me I was going to stay there.
You know, you drank my booze, which you got for free.
You told me I was going to stay there.
No, I didn't.
And then as we walked to the ferry, you revealed that actually you're only buying me a one-way ticket because I was going to be staying in a hotel.
Yeah, but I booked you into a hotel. I don't know
what you then didn't know where the hotel was.
Anyway, the point of the story...
I was quite insulted.
Well, don't feel insulted, you know. So the point of the story is that, of course, one of the reasons I have my penthouse there is to look out over the fantastic view of the harbour, okay? Now, imagine if somebody came along...
In fact, did you not put a picture out of the foggy harbour just a few days ago?
I did, yeah.
People were remarking how low it looked from the penthouse.
Yeah, well, that was just the elevation of the picture, so I wanted to make sure I got it in focus.
Yeah, okay.
Now, what I'm saying is, just imagine if somebody grew a... huge Lalani hedge between me and the view of the harbour.
I suppose
that
would
obliterate my view altogether.
In your case,
that's terrible.
Yeah, in your case, it would be more like something of
a new block of flats.
A new block of flats.
But there's no room.
Which has also happened.
No, but there's no room. But I'm literally right on the edge of the harbour, right on the edge of the water. They'd have to build them on water, so it can't ever happen. That was the selling point of the developments I live in. But I mean, that is so appalling that it's almost like being struck blind, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It really is.
Because what happened to my view? Who stole it?
It's the kind of thing that you would want to put up if the view was horrendous. You know, if for some reason you were looking on some appalling thing at the end of the garden, then you would want to put it up. You know, but it's a terrible
and this poor lady She says, Mrs. Kelly, this is the lady who's lost her view, believes that her neighbour planted the trees in revenge after failing 6 times to get planning permission to build 4 houses on the land when neighbours objected. Mrs. Kelly said, it was absolutely beautiful, but the view of Salisbury Hill is now completely gone. I would move if I could, but I'm too old. It hasn't got that open feel anymore. It's like a huge barricade. I want those trees gone, but I can't afford to pay for it, the legal action that is, to try and get them go. I do believe that my neighbour should absolutely have to pay for it. She put them up. She should have them taken down.
Yes.
So it's a terrible dispute
story,
for neighbours. And all that.
And as I say, it happens all the time. I mean, I knew some people in America who had a very beautiful waterfront property. And in the States, waterfront property is absolutely premium price.
Absolutely.
And the person who lived next door, and the houses are quite far apart.
Right.
Decided to put some trees up.
Yeah.
To because in America they're not big on fences particularly.
No, they're not.
No. One person's garden ends.
It's all
another
open
one
plan.
begins. Yeah, it's very open.
Yeah.
But these people put sort of trees up,
right,
which effectively it didn't completely shut off the whole view.
Yeah.
But it shut off the view kind of out to sea.
Yes.
Because they were in like a cove, right?
Yes, I see.
And this woman told me that she, and I can't give her name because obviously she wouldn't want to admit this to a court of law. She went and poisoned the trees.
Did she?
Yeah.
And did the trees die?
Yes.
Ah.
And they had
I
to be
don't
taken
blame
down.
her. I think that's quite positive.
And she went through all sorts of legal ways of trying to get them to take the trees down.
Yes.
And they were absolutely adamant they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so eventually, apparently, one night she went out and put poison at the foot of the trees and just watched them die over the course of the next 5 months.
Well, I quite admire her initiative in doing that because, I mean, you've got to take direct action if these things happen. Well, it's sort of illegal.
It's damage to property.
Well, but it's a social crime rather than a crime against property, if you see what I mean.
But there's also all these disputes about, for example, if somebody's tree grows over onto your side of the garden.
You cut it.
And you're allowed to cut it up to a point, but you're not allowed to cut it any further.
And if you cut any further, you can be done for theft and vandalism and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It is a terrible thing. No matter where you live in life, you have a problem with your neighbour. Everybody does.
How's the police officer you used to have as a neighbour down
there? He's okay.
Is he still there?
Okay. Yeah, he's still there. That's going okay. I don't have any problems in certain parts of the world. In other parts of the world, you have horrendous problems, and you just have to deal with them these days.
But I mean, people must think you're quite a good neighbour because you're hardly ever there in most of the places you live.
Well, I'm a good neighbour anyway because A, I'm socially responsible. B,
you're a bit of a pest in Stockbroker Belt.
No, I'm not. I believe in the immaculate conception of the property in which I live. So if anybody tries to do anything with the property which I don't like, I go and pay somebody to change it the way I want it, and I don't care whether they like it or not.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So if somebody...
It's not really being socially responsible, is it?
It is.
It's more like getting your own way.
Funny enough, the other day...
You've seen the time, by the way.
Well, hang on, this is just quite important.
Well, why don't you wait till a minute, and 2 minutes from now.
I'll tell you
Hold that thought.
It's quite important.
Okay. Yeah. Well, everything's quite important.
It is,
I mean, everything you say is important.
Yes.
This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport, we are the Two Mikes. Woodenhead has tweeted at the Two Mikes. He says, of course, Mr. Morality Parry agrees with poisoning trees. He sprays ammonia at animals that come near him, for God's sake.
No, I don't. I spray the base of trees that have got bark on them with a slightly ammoniaed type solution to keep dogs from fouling the pavement, and it has worked, by the way.
Does it work?
Fingers crossed, I can say we haven't had a dog fouling pavement situation in my street.
A dog fouling pavement situation?
Yeah, for about 3 years. So that was a social plus. I helped everybody out. Nobody wants to see dogs fouling the pavements, and I took the initiative and I sorted it. Now, another initiative I've taken recently is that in my underground car park, somebody had a car parked there which was slowly turning into a wreck.
Oh, yeah.
I.e., they hadn't attended to the car.
Yeah.
It was covered in dust. People started writing stupid things like "clean me" on the back.
Yeah.
Who would do that? Which immature
well,
would do
just
that?
Teenagers, probably.
Well, not in an underground car park where they don't have any
very
access.
possibly.
So it must be a driver of another car. Anyway,
maybe there are people who go in there unbeknownst to you.
Yes.
And hang about like teenagers do.
No, they don't. They can't get in.
They like to sort of keep out of the way.
No, I make sure of that.
Sure?
I make sure that doesn't happen. Anyway, the point of my story is so it started gathering dust, and then the tyres started going down. Now, this is the sign a car's been abandoned.
Yeah.
No hesitation. I rang up a company, offered them £100.
Yeah.
They came, bang, it's gone.
What? But it's not your car.
It's not my car.
Has it got a registration number?
Yes.
Why didn't you report it to DVLA?
I had already told the management company who managed the block that if they didn't do something about this car within 2 weeks, I was going to have it removed. So I've had it removed.
So where have you removed it to?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
So what if the person who owns the car
Tough luck.
Comes to you and says, "Where's my car?"
Tough luck. It's been there for 3 months. It was an eyesore. It turned into a wreck.
Terrible.
No, sorry.
That's horrendous.
As far as I'm concerned, they had their opportunity. They have to abandon it, and the car's now gone.
But it's not within your.
I don't care.
Within your right to remove somebody's car. You're not in charge of the building.
I don't care. I can tell you the people who came and removed it didn't care whose car it was. I gave them £100 in cash, and it's gone.
That's shocking.
So that's
that is shocking. Now this is a question I was going to ask you because there's been an abandoned car, not far from me down in Sussex.
Well, do what I've done.
Main road. Well, no, it's not in my way, but it's on one of the school sort of routes basically.
Oh, I see.
And it's it's clearly abandoned. It's got the windows are all smashed in. It's obviously been.
Well, that's an eyesore.
Well, not only it's an eyesore.
Pay for somebody to remove it.
Well, hang on. It's parked in it's sort of half on the pavement, half in the street. Right?
Yes. Well, that's even worse.
Yeah, but I mean, aren't the police
danger to traffic.
Aren't the police duty bound to remove a car
well, hasn't
like
it got a notice on it?
Sometimes you see a police sticker saying,
that's what I'm saying.
Police know about this, it's an abandoned car.
That's right.
This one doesn't have anything on it.
Well,
But it's been there for about 2 weeks.
Well, haven't the council got an obligation now to remove it as a dangerous vehicle?
Well, I think so.
Because, what will happen is exactly what you said. Kids will go and start pulling bits off it and trying to start it up and all that kind of stuff. And it will become not just an eyesore.
And it's also, because it's on one of the main roads past one of the schools,
yes,
it tends to cause a bit of a logjam
when
it's school chuck it out time.
That's right, when people are trying to drive around it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would report it, and if not, I would, because you earn a rather decent sort of middle-class living, I'd pay for it to get removed yourself.
But it's not my business to get it removed.
You see, you've got to have direct action in life. You can't just sit around thinking, I hope somebody will solve that problem for me. I solve the problems that I become aware of.
Well, maybe you should solve it.
Yeah.
It's not my place to remove it, right?
Yeah.
It's not on the road where I live. It is not anywhere near anything that I have anything to do with.
Yes.
I'm just merely asking you whether the police surely shouldn't have a responsibility to do it.
Well, I think they should have a responsibility to do it. Have you reported it to the police?
Have I? No.
Well, you want the problem solved, and yet you've done nothing about it.
Well, it's 200 yards.
You drive past it every morning.
I'll tell you what, right?
Yeah.
It is abandoned 200 yards from the police station.
Right.
The police only have to walk up the road to get a sandwich and see that it's there.
Well, next time you're driving past the police station, why don't you stop your car, go in the police station and say, excuse me, there is a traffic hazard there which could lead to a child being injured in a road accident.
Yeah, I haven't got time.
Oh, haven't got time. You mean you haven't got the social responsibility necessity?
No, because you can't go into the police station.
Too busy dashing around, getting bladderated.
No, the police station is not open to the public. There is nowhere to park a car in the police station because it's police vehicles only, and there is nowhere else to park a car on that road because you would probably get towed by the police.
You see, excuses. If it was me, when I see problems, I solve them.
You're kind of a little tin pot dictator type.
I'm not.
I mean, you love the idea of making somebody's car disappear. You love the idea of laying down the Parry law, even though you have no right to do so.
Excuse me, I believe only in positive action. I think you'll find that the vast majority of our millions of listeners will applaud me, and I mean applaud me, for my ability to get these things done.
Right. Now,
of that I'm sure.
Speaking of having a nice middle-class lifestyle, by the way, I ordered my Christmas joint yesterday.
Oh, your joint?
Yes.
I didn't know you'd got back on that.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Oh, sorry, you mean the meat?
What are you talking about?
Sorry, mate. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No. Sorry,
You're not talking about some nefarious substance, are you? That's a shocking thing to say in a family show.
It is. And
there's only one meaning for joint on this show.
I have to say.
You're thinking of talk radio.
We are going back 25 or 30 years, by the way, when I mentioned that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've no idea what you're talking about.
Right, okay. So what have you ordered?
I've ordered a Côte de Boeuf.
Côte de Boeuf?
Yeah, which is a very fine cut of 25-year-old aged beef, right? It's going to be absolutely incredible, but it's rather expensive, and I'm going to be picking it up next week.
Hang on. It's a 25-year-old piece of meat?
Yeah. Well, it's been aged.
Where's it been for the last 25 years?
I don't know. You can ask them.
Well, are you saying that they have these knackered old cows that stagger around in fields until they're 25 and then they shoot them?
No.
Huh?
No, they don't age it while it's still alive. They age it after it's dead.
Well, where do they age? What do they do with it? What age is the cow when they shoot it?
I've no idea.
Well, like 3 or something.
I don't know.
So what do they do with the meat for the next 22 years?
I don't know.
Well,
all I know is that
in that case,
right, is that if you go to a steakhouse, as you have done, remember you went to the Argentinian steakhouse and ordered Argentinian steak?
Yes.
That's what you told me.
Yes.
A lot of that is aged beef, right? It means that it's been aged so that it is more kind of tender.
How do they age it?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a butcher.
Don't you think you should find out before you inflict this on your family?
Well, all I know is it
could be rancid. It could be crawling with maggots.
No, of course it won't be.
If it's 25 years old.
Don't talk rubbish.
No, I'm not talking rubbish. I'd like to know how they age, how you artificially age meat.
You don't artificially age it.
Of course you do.
How do you age whiskey, for example? 12-year-old malt whiskey.
By keeping it for 12 years.
They keep it for 12 years in a barrel. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is kept for 25 years in a barrel. I don't know.
No. The only way you can preserve meat over 25 years is to freeze it, in which case it's not aged beef. It's beef that's been in animated suspension for 22 years.
Animated suspension?
Yeah.
Do you mean suspended animation?
Suspended animation, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. For the last 22 years, yeah.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, all I know is it's going to be very good. And I just wanted to share it with you, and I'm sorry that you've got so many questions that I can't answer.
Well, I just ludicrous. You're going to stuff all this this rancid meat down your children's mouths on Christmas Day.
It's not rancid.
Without even finding out where it came from.
It's not rancid meat. Well, I'm buying it from a very reputable butcher. I'm buying it from the Ginger Pig in Borough Market, right?
Yeah.
Now, these people make the best
yeah, but when you
joints.
go there, don't you say, how do you age that then? What's the process? And
Well, no, I didn't ask him that.
Well, I would.
I just wanted to make... well, you would, because you ask a lot of stupid questions.
No, because I have the curiosity of the mind of a investigative journalist, which is what I've been all my life. Whereas you...
Well, why don't you go down there and
just
ask
gone
him?
whoosh over your head. Whoosh over your head. You couldn't care less. As long as you've got enough money in your pocket to get bladderated on a regular basis and let life pass you by, you could not care less.
Here we go. Look, why dry-aged beef tastes better. All fresh beef is aged for at least a few days and up to several weeks to allow enzymes naturally present in the meat to break down the muscle
tissue. So that's days and weeks,
resulting in improved texture and flavours.
Right.
These days, most beef is aged in plastic shrink wrap, a process known as wet aging. However, this is dry aged, right?
Yeah.
And dry aging takes place for a longer period of time, right? And the longer it's aged, the better it is.
So you're
because
telling
it means it basically, from what this would appear to be saying,
Yeah.
is that it breaks down all of the things that are tough in a beef joint.
Yeah, but hang on. You're seriously telling me now, from that description, that this bit of meat that you've ordered for Christmas has been wrapped in polythene?
No, it hasn't been wet aged. It's been dry aged.
Yeah. So how do you dry age it?
Dry aged beef, generally speaking, is aged in a special meat maturing fridge. Apparently.
What, for 25 years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mature whiskey...
But the guy who puts it in won't be working there 25 years later when you've got to pull it out.
Maybe not.
Well, that's a ridiculous
Why do you find it so
process.
Why do you find it so ridiculous?
Because nobody can age food for 25 years and expect it to be edible. It's ludicrous.
It's not ludicrous.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I don't think so.
Well, I think you've got that all wrong. And if I were you, I'd make some really urgent inquiries as to where this meat came from and what's been happening to it for the last 25 years.
Okay.
I wouldn't put it in my mouth, I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, don't worry, you're not invited.
Oh, right.
So you won't be covered anyway.
That's very nice.
What are you having for Christmas?
Turkey.
Turkey.
Yeah, I like my turkey.
Is it aged turkey?
Well, it's a turkey, isn't it?
How old is the turkey?
Probably about 6 weeks.
How do you know where it comes from?
I do know where it comes
Where's
from.
it coming from?
It's being shot on old, Bootiful's farm in Norfolk.
What, old Bernard Manning?
Yeah. Mind you, he got shot.
Bernard Matthews I'm talking about.
Bernie Matthews, he's dead, isn't he?
I think so.
He's dead.
Yeah.
By the way, we discovered this morning, didn't we, on investigation, that our fantasist friend Brian Cashinella
is in fact dead.
Sadly dead, yes. Yeah.
So he won't be ringing.
He won't be ringing up in the sewage. No. Mind you, couldn't, because everything I've told you about him is the absolute truth.
Yes.
In fact, funny enough, I was contacted
he might still have members of his family listening.
By 2 or 3... Well, even they knew he was a fantasist, because it was his wife once who rang me up to tell me.
Are you sure she didn't just ring you up because she didn't want you to come round to the house?
No, believe me. Other people had the same experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, coming up next, we're going to be talking to Sandra Lee down in Australia.
Excellent.
So we'll find out what's going on with her. This is talk coming up a little bit later on, and it may be a festive flavoured one. We're not quite sure. We shall find out soon. Right now, though, it's time to say a very good morning to our very favourite Australian, Miss Sandra Lee.
Indeed.
Sandra, good day to you.
G'day, chaps. How are you both?
Very well indeed, thank you. And all the better for having you back on the show, Sandra. Delight to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's always my pleasure.
Lovely.
Now, before we get to the often talked about subject of sharks and crocodile attacks and all of that, my attention's been drawn to the Australian word of the year, democracy sausage, which first of all I know is not actually one word but 2 words. And when did this ridiculous idea of word of the year start, by the way?
Well, it's actually been happening for several years. At least 10 years, and it's not only the Australian dictionary that does it. The Oxford Dictionary does it. The Webster Dictionary does it. Loads of them.
Well, I think we had an Austrian one the other day, which referred to something to do with the Austrian election, which was the longest word in the history of Austrian words, 251 letters or something like that. But I've only really noticed it this year for some reason.
Yeah, no, it's been around for a while, and you're right. This year, it's 2 words, and mirroring what happened last year, it was 2 words as well. In fact, there were 3 last year that were 2 words: sharing economy, and the dark web was another. Right. And this year, it's democracy sausage.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean?
Well, it's an Australian tradition at election time, at the ballot box. Lots of elections are held in school halls, and the school halls always put on a sausage sizzle to raise funds for the school. And basically, you pay $5 and you get a sausage in a bread roll with a bit of grilled onion and some tomato sauce, and that's your democracy sausage.
Oh, I see. So why was it called a democracy sausage this time around?
It was simply because it's held at the prime moment when we're choosing our democracy going forward.
All right, okay. Well, how's democracy going there anyway? Because there's normally a new a new government every time we speak these days.
Yeah, well, we've had the same government now for the past 18 months, and the reason that the new Prime Minister was put in, he said, was because the previous Prime Minister had plummeting opinion polls for 30 opinion polls in a row. Well, so far, the new Prime Minister has had 9 plummeting opinion polls, so he's got 21 to go before he gets booted out.
It doesn't look like he's got a big future, that boy. Sandra, listen, do you know anything about meerkats?
No.
What sort of a question is that?
Caught me by surprise. Absolutely nothing.
Well, no, the reason I ask...
2 legs.
Well, the reason I ask is that the most popular programme over here in Britain, of course, is Coronation Street, and they are sponsored by a couple of meerkats.
Are they?
Yeah, it's an insurance company play on the word market. You see what I mean? You know, you've got to play the market, the meerkat. But anyway, I noticed, looking at my geographical journals...
What's the name of the company?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
You don't know?
It doesn't matter. And we're not going to give them the free publicity.
Well, no, because if you're going to quote from an advert, surely the point of the advert is that you remember the name of the company.
No, well, whatever. Anyway, it says here that the biggest litter of 6 meerkats has been born at Taronga Zoo in Sydney, the largest litter ever produced. And yesterday they were brought out of their box and presented to the general public. But clearly it's something that seems to have passed most Australians by.
It passed me by, that's for sure. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, is Taronga Zoo, is that a big tourist attraction?
Yeah, it's one of Sydney's biggest attractions, and it's absolutely a fantastic zoo. I know a lot of people have varying views on zoos, but I think it's magnificent, and it's right on Sydney Harbour.
Oh, is it?
And so it's literally on the harbour, and it's got some of the most breathtaking views and some of the most breathtaking exhibitions. And I was there with my husband a couple of years ago, and we did actually see the meerkats. But,
right.
So I don't know how long their gestational period is. That's interesting. And then if they've had 6 more, wow.
Yeah. Listen,
Porky's a bit confused about zoos because basically last time we talked about zoos, he said they were an abomination and should be taken off the face of the earth. However, he's also a friend of Chester Zoo, which is one of the more popular zoos here in the UK.
I come from Chester, and since I was a kid, I've donated money to the research there. But I do think keeping animals in zoos, is there not a problem in having a zoo in Sydney when obviously the temperatures get exceedingly hot, and some of the animals there, maybe polar bears and things, aren't used to that sort of climate?
Well, they'll probably just go swimming.
Well, they would go swimming, yeah, but I mean, it's not a very big pool for polar bears to swim in.
I mean, there are some polar bears that have massive swimming pools in various zoos.
Yeah, but it's not as big as the Arctic Ocean, are they?
No.
Which is where polar bears belong.
That would be hard to do.
I think it's cruel to tell a polar bear go swimming in a pool about the size.
So why
do
you keep giving money to the zoo in order to
Well,
continue?
that's for research purposes. But I think we should move on. I wanted to talk to you, Sandra, about this non-stop flight, right? Non-stop flight from Britain to Perth. It says for the first time, a 17-hour flight, right? People, by the time they land in Perth, will be so bladderated and tired and knackered and, crawling on their hands and knees. I'm not sure you want to... I'm not sure you want to import those sort of people into Australia, do you?
Well, they'll just be like the ones that came out here over 200 years ago from there.
Well, yeah. Now, do you know what? I'm sure I've done this. I'm sure I flew from Manchester to Perth non-stop on a flight about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was, it was one of those sort of where they took all the seats out to make the plane lighter and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they did.
Well, it was a Hercules.
No, it was a commercial airliner.
What do you mean they took all the seats out?
Well, I'm sure that Qantas have done this before because we had a colleague called Michael O'Flaherty at the Daily Express. Yeah. And I'm sure he went on a non-stop flight to... is it something which the Australians are welcoming as opening up yet another, sort of channel of holidaymakers, tourists, call them what you want, to Australia?
Well, Alan Joyce, who runs Qantas, and the Western Australian Premier both believe it's going to be a boon to the economy, especially the tourism economy over in the West, which is, as you know, I mean, Perth is the most remote city in the world. And to bring all these people in there, I think it'll be fantastic for the economy over there. And it seems that once they get there, they'll sort of migrate to the eastern coast and come over here via the Nullarbor.
But that's the problem, I suppose, isn't it? Because I mean, most people who go on holidays to Australia want to go to Sydney or maybe Melbourne. Well, they don't think of going to Perth first. And once you get to Perth, it's still a hell of a way to Sydney, isn't it?
Oh, it's a hell of a way.
I'm asking you.
No, sorry.
I'm asking Sandra.
Yes, I know, but I was going to add to the conversation by saying to Sandra. Sandra just said the most remote city on earth is Perth. Now, funny enough, when I went there, Sandra, you won't believe it. There's so little to do in Western Australia. We were taken on a tour of mines where they dig copper. No, they were.
Well, mines are quite interesting.
On the tour of open cast mines, and this. This woman kept telling us that all these mines, which, create these huge sort of holes in the ground, they say when we discovered all these rocks to be 400 million years old, So, I mean, there is literally nothing to do there until you go to Monkey Mere and watch the dolphins swimming around.
Well, I hope that you're not going to be promoting Perth tourism or Western Australian tourism with that.
No, that's right. Or you can go to Fremantle, can't you, and go say hello to the old doctor, the Fremantle doctor.
Yeah, the Fremantle doctor. Western Australia is actually a very, very beautiful state, and there is quite a lot to do there if you just sort of put your thinking cap on.
Yeah, but you do have to put your thinking cap on. We flew over. We had a little private plane, and we flew over parts of the bush and all that, where the pilot said that no white men had ever walked below us. It's that remote and that big. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Perth is, Western Australia is the biggest state in the nation. It takes up, I would say, at least probably a third of the country. So it's massive. It goes from the top of the country to the bottom of the country, and it takes up that great big swathe over in the west, and including parts of the Nullarbor, the Great Nullarbor Plain.
And by the way, the beaches are beautiful and completely deserted. You know what I mean? They're just extensive and miles and miles and miles of them.
Perth.
Yeah, but there's nobody there.
Are you going to go and take one of these 17-hour flights then?
Well, I wouldn't mind. I think that's quite interesting, but I'd have to have a decent seat. I obviously wouldn't want to be with the Great Unwashed at the back of the plane.
I can't imagine sitting on a plane for 17 hours. I can't imagine anything worse.
Well,
especially being on a plane with you for 17 hours.
That's a bit harsh.
That'd be awful. What's going on in the world of marine biology and shark attacks?
Oh, well, we haven't had any shark attacks. However, you will be impressed to know that the New South Wales Premier, who was totally recalcitrant about putting shark nets in, has finally succumbed to pressure from the community because of so many attacks this year, 6 attacks this year.
Right.
And they've dropped in miles and miles of shark net on the northern coast last week, and within 24 hours, they netted 8 great whites.
8? Blimey.
Golly, that is...
Yeah.
What do they do with them when they've got them?
Well, they tag them, they release them and send them on their way, and then they can monitor where they are because they've got now sort of little GPS locators on them.
No, that's a very good idea.
We can put one of those on Porky to see where he gets up to.
Excuse me. But I mean,
because he has these missing hours in a day. He says he's doing paperwork. I have no idea where he goes.
So you can literally say to people, look, get out of the water because 2 miles out is Great White Shark Fred or whatever you call him. Yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a very good idea.
It's a much better idea than the other drumlines which were killing them all.
Yeah, that's right. No, I totally agree. And what about the drinking situation in Sydney, Sandra, which is worrying me greatly? Are they still closing bars down at 10:30 at night?
Well, in fact, funny you mentioned that. That very same Premier who just had a back down on the shark nets has had a back down on the drinking laws.
Hooray!
Hooray, exactly. So we all raised a glass of champagne to that.
Yeah.
And they've extended the hours by 1 hour every night in bars. So they're staying open now till 2 o'clock instead of the 1:30 lockout.
Brilliant.
And they've extended the bottle shop opening by an hour as well.
Oh, and so what time do they close now?
Now they close at 11 p.m. instead of 10 p.m.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, killing a lot of business. And also there's a lot of talk that he will go further in the new year and relax the laws even more, because he's been copping a thumping in the public opinion polls, and it's mainly over the lockout laws and the shark nets and the council amalgamation. So he's not a very popular chap, he's our Premier.
Well, if he wants to get even more popular, all he's got to do is put in some cycle superhighways, and then you can have the whole set.
He can get completely unpopular then. But that's great. I mean, I've always believed that, a drinking man is the bulwark of most civilised societies, and Sydney have just proved it.
Well, indeed. Now, Sandra was kind enough to share with me that she'd had a look at our DVD, right?
Yes.
And one question has arisen from it, which is about your property empire, because Sandra's husband's in the financial business.
Is he?
And his big question was, how many properties does Porky actually own?
Yes.
Isn't that right, Sandra?
That's exactly right. That one, and also, did you really hit on Mummy?
You mean on Mike's mother?
Yeah.
No, I mean just a ridiculous story, which he made up because couldn't think of anything else to say. I never told it.
Yes, you did.
Don't be ridiculous.
You did indeed.
Don't be ridiculous. Your mother's a lovely person, and once had a glass of wine when I was around at your sister's place. But to then push the story on to the most ridiculous and nefarious ways is disgraceful.
See, he's chosen to answer that question, but not the property one.
I can't answer the property question, Sandra, because it's a question of a movable feast. I have a portfolio, like a lot of people do, and that portfolio is constantly being added to and subtracted from, and, well, you know the way these things go.
I don't.
Oh, really? Oh, right, okay, yeah. Well, that's
well done.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Sandra, have a wonderful Christmas if we don't talk to you before.
Indeed.
But we'll talk to you very soon thereafter, I'm sure.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you, and a Merry Christmas to all your wonderful listeners who follow me on Twitter.
They do.
Great.
Like to hear from them.
They all look forward to you coming on. Thank you very much
indeed. We do. Sandra, thank you very much
down
indeed.
in Sydney, Australia, with an update on everything that's going on. A great picture here from Zoo, who sent in a picture of animated suspension. What do you think of that?
Animated suspension.
It's really good, isn't it?
No, that's the suspension system on a car, you idiot.
But it's animated.
Animated, I see. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. It's coming up to Christmas, and everybody needs an advent calendar. So here's one for you, Two Mike style.
Ho, ho, ho! By the way, I didn't drink gin and tonic when I first met you in Costello's.
Yeah, you did.
It was Tank and Tonic.
What?
Tank and Tonic.
That's gin and tonic.
Tanqueray.
Tanqueray's gin.
Tanqueray is known as Tanqueray. It's not known as gin.
Well, it is gin, though.
Well, it might be gin, but it's known as Tanqueray.
That's rubbish.
No, it's not.
What a load of old cobblers.
Tank and Tonic.
It's still gin and tonic.
Tank and Tonic.
Plank and tonic, you should add. Ho, ho, ho!
Hey, hey, hey!
There you go, the Porky Advent Calendar.
Yes.
Yes, it's nice to hear all these old
clips, isn't it? It's good, isn't it? Yeah, great.
Stuart says this, MG is right. I deliver to butchers across the country. Normally beef is hung to age for 4 to 6 weeks. The longer it's left, the better it tastes.
Yeah, but not for 25 years.
Well, I might have got that slightly wrong.
I think you'll find it is 25 days.
Yeah.
Although there is one note here that says, I think the meat is 25 months matured, says Martin, thank you.
Yeah.
Mike Porky Parry, the great snob that he is, never is a man of the people, Jack in Bolton. I thought it was about meat. Sorry, let me see here. It says, yes, here we go. Crikey, Mikey. 25 years, I think you'll find your beef will have been mature for 25 days.
Maybe 25 days. I'll tell you what's been very, very helpful.
And that's from Andy.
What's been very, very helpful. Yeah. Gaza has sent me a piece from grubstreet.com in which it's got all the oldest dry-aged steaks ranked by age in New York, right?
Yes.
In all the different steakhouses.
Yes.
And you might remember Peter Luger's. They won't reveal exactly how long they dry-aged their steak.
Right.
But generally speaking, Brasserie Les Halles, which we used to go to,
yes,
they do 21 days for prime rib and Côte de Boeuf.
Yeah.
Right, 21. So maybe it's 25.
Of course it is. 25 days, not 25 years.
21 days, sirloin, porterhouse and T-bone. Michael Jordan Steakhouse, 21 days.
Yes.
The Parlour Steakhouse, 21 days.
Well, there you go.
BLT Steak, the Dutch, Gallagher's, Gotham Bar and Grill, 28 days. It goes up to like 40-odd days, though.
Yes, but it's days, not years, right? Do you admit that you've made a colossal error here?
Osteria Morini. Well, I remember seeing a sign that said 25 on it, and I just assumed it said 25 years.
Well, I mean, how thick are you to buy a piece of meat that's 25 years old?
Here's one aged 140 days. That's 11 Madison Park. A ribeye aged 140 days. That's a long time.
140, 7 into 140 is 20 weeks.
Yeah. So that's quite a long time.
No, it's a very long time.
So it could be 25 weeks, maybe.
No, it's not.
It might be 25 weeks.
Impossible. If the top steakhouse in New York do the maximum of 20,
what you know about meat,
yours is not going to be 25 weeks.
Postage stamp. I mean, you'll be buying your, Tesco value mince and making your horrible spaghetti with it. I'm talking about something which is going to be beautiful.
Yes.
Something which is going to be like a work of art.
Work of art.
And it's going to be fantastic. It's going to melt in the mouth.
Listen, talking about meat, I've got a good story here because somebody sent me a new book. No, what's your problem?
Sorry, nothing.
What?
Nothing.
What's your problem?
Well, it's just, there was a film. I can't remember whose nickname was Meat.
Yes.
Do you remember
Meat.
the film?
Meat. Yeah, Meat. Meathead.
It wasn't Meathead. It was Meat. It was one of those war films, I think.
I think Sylvester Stallone called somebody Meathead in a film once, or somebody called him Meathead because he was a boxer.
Yeah, but no, it was Meat, though.
Okay. Now then, somebody sent me a book, and it's called The Man Who Made McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
And did you know that the guy who founded McDonald's was an inveterate drunk, according to this book?
I didn't know that, but I remember seeing a picture, and I think I remember even being to the first ever McDonald's, which is somewhere in the Midwest of America.
Yes.
Somewhere in Illinois, I think. And it had the golden arches.
California, actually.
Was the first one in California? Are you sure?
Yeah. Transformed
sure?
a small California hamburger shack into the world's biggest fast food empire, serving 68 million customers daily.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I remember
countries.
seeing. Do you remember? Does it got the picture of the golden arches? You know the M, which is now the sort of the signal, or the symbol, rather.
Yeah.
The original big M was known as the golden arches.
It was, yeah.
It was two arches that you sort of walked through.
That's right, yeah.
Or drove through.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it says here
when you say it says here, where?
I think. Hang on, the man who made the McDonald's fortune. Now this is also going to be made into a film. But anyway, look, it's.
You sound like backtracking now.
No, I'm not backtracking.
Yeah, you are.
The guy I'm talking about, right, is a guy called Ray Kroc, K-R-O-C, who became a billionaire at the helm of McDonald's, okay? But it was his glamorous second wife, Joan, who then gave away £2.3 billion of his fortune when he died because she fell out with him, okay? And it's in a new movie. It's called The Founder. It stars Michael Keaton as Kroc. And the true life story is that Joan Kroc, who was...
it's a very unfortunate name, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. That's her name. Enjoyed a fairy tale existence. She was dripping with jewels, delighting in her 42-carat diamond necklace, 22-carat diamond ring, private planes on call, and a personal yacht.
Yeah.
Renoirs and Cézannes littered their homes. Money was no object. She sent an injured bird to the vet in her chauffeur-driven Rolls-Royce and dispatched her private jet to pick up her 6 dogs, which she fed on Big Macs. Okay?
Right.
Ray spent his life accumulating wealth.
Now, where did he open his first restaurant?
I'm going to get to that in a minute. Right, accumulating wealth, okay?
Yeah.
He spent...
Where did he open his first restaurant?
Well, I'm getting to that. If you just shut your face for a minute, right. Now, by his own confession, he was a hot-tempered, emotional man.
Right.
Ray was a very difficult person. He was an alcoholic and not a happy drunk, said one friend.
Okay.
He used to drink cheap whiskey. He would fly into alcoholic rages, which ratcheted up his already irascible personality to a tempestuous boil.
Yeah. Where did he open his first restaurant?
Hang on a second. Just listen for a minute, will you? Now, during his drunken rages, he would sometimes fire all the staff. The next day, he'd go into the office and be puzzled as to why there was nobody else there.
Right,
he had no staff. They'd all gone, yeah. And he also disapproved of people drinking cocktails. He thought Manhattans were for sissies.
Okay.
Right. Forgot his drunken rages, sacked staff all the time. This is the man who invented McDonald's, okay?
Where did he open his first restaurant?
In California.
No,
keep telling you that.
Incorrect. In Illinois. He opened his first restaurant in Illinois.
Well, he transformed a small Californian hamburger shack run by his brother into the world's biggest fast food empire. That's all I can tell you.
I can tell you that he opened his first restaurant in Illinois, inspired by the McDonald brothers, who had opened their first restaurant in San Bernardino, in California.
It says
so this guy is the guy who really made McDonald's work.
Yes.
And so the first proper McDonald's was in Illinois.
Well, it says here, this guy, Ray Kroc, rose from humble beginnings. He was selling milkshake mixers in 1954 when he discovered his brother Morris and a guy called Dick McDonald.
Yes.
That's obviously where the name came from.
Yeah, well, those were the brothers, the McDonald brothers.
Yeah, that's right. Running a tiny chain of hamburger stands near Los Angeles and persuaded them to let him franchise their brand across America.
Yes.
He quickly built an empire and bought out the brothers.
Yes.
Who gave it away for virtually nothing, you know what I mean?
That's right. And where did he open his first restaurant?
Well, that was in California. I just told you that four times already.
No, the McDonald Brothers one was, but the first franchise was in Illinois.
Now, it says that an early restaurant was a McDonald's franchise in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Ray found repeated excuses to visit the town because the woman working behind the counter was Joan, the woman he eventually married, and who was dripping with diamonds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah?
Okay.
How about that?
Very good. Wouldn't it sound a good picture of the famous alcoholic McDonald's creator?
Oh, yeah, let's have a look. yeah. Ronald McDonald!
Ronald McDonald. It is remarkable, though, isn't it, that the place has become so just, I don't know... so it's just all about the American culture, isn't it? I mean, everywhere you go in the world, McDonald's tastes the same.
Everywhere. And not only that, but you go to places... I've been to places where wars have been happening, and the one constant factor is there's always a McDonald's restaurant there, and there's always a Coke machine, a machine selling bottles of Coke. Right. And the American culture, as you quite rightly said, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, spread around the world so that the world became Americanised, didn't it?
It did.
You know, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Ford Motor Cars, or any other American brand of motor car.
Chevrolet now.
Chevrolet, and all that kind of stuff. It Americanised the world. I mean, it was incredible the way that some of the brand names in America just... I mean, for instance...
IBM, I suppose you'd say, the other one.
IBM, absolutely right. But, I mean, the American dollar was sometimes the only safe currency in places like communist Russia. Yeah. That people would, like deal in on the streets.
It was the only currency. I mean, even as recently as 20 years ago, there were still places where they would only take dollars.
Well, I went to Russia 2 times when it was still under communist rule. And on both occasions, the only way you could get anything done was to give people American dollars. Yeah. It's the only way. They didn't want rubles, they didn't want pounds, they just wanted American dollars. And they could swap one American dollar for 100 rubles. And some people only got paid 200 rubles a week. Yeah. And that's how popular the pound was. That's how popular the dollar was,
Now, the Meat character, I've been told by several people, including Sandra, says the guy called Meat was in a movie called Porky's. I kid you not.
No.
I remember Porky's, the film, but it was also in Bull Durham. Where it was Tim Robbins.
Bull Durham
was Tim Robbins as the very slightly lethargic but very talented pitcher.
Yes.
And he was called Meat by Kevin Costner because he was a bit of a meathead.
Oh, that's right.
So there we go. Yeah. James says aged beef is normally hung up for between 21 to 45 days.
Well, there you go.
The elite beef hangs for 60 to 180 days. Just stick to your cheap beef, Mr. Parry.
Yes. Cheap. I don't think it's cheap beef. I really don't think it's... I mean, some cheap beef actually tastes quite nice. There's the beef that you get from the animal's neck. Is it called scran or something like that?
Scran?
Is it scran?
No, that's a Liverpudlian term, isn't it?
No.
Scrag, you mean?
Scrag? Is it called scrag? Is it scrag?
I don't know.
Chine. It's called chine.
Chine?
Chine.
I've never heard of that.
Now, chine meat, chine meat is meat that falls off the bone, so to speak, and it's in the neck of the animal.
Oh, yeah.
And it's lovely, tender meat.
Really?
And I don't know, but you can't do it in steaks, you see, because it's a bit like spare ribs. That's what it is.
Is it?
But it's wonderful meat,
But it's not on the bone.
It's on the bone, but it falls off the bone because it's so tender, so to speak, But it's not like chewable off the bone like ribs, you know what I mean? No, it's really good.
I've never heard of any of those terms.
I love ribs, don't you?
Huh?
I love ribs.
Ribs?
Yeah,
Prime rib?
Yeah, no. In Chinese restaurants, when you get like
Oh, you mean spare ribs?
Spare ribs.
Yeah.
The only problem is I find them incredibly messy to eat with your fingers.
Yeah.
And I always insist on repairing to the bathroom to wash my hands after I've eaten the ribs.
Do you?
And I won't come back to the table till everybody else has as well.
Don't they give you a bowl?
Yeah, give you a bowl, but it's only got like water in it, and you've just dabbled your fingers in water.
It's usually lemon water.
Sorry?
It's usually lemon
water, but you don't get all the grease and stuff off your hands. So I always, if I'm hosting the table, which most of the time I am, I send people to the bathroom to wash their hands after they've had the ribs. Definitely.
Good luck trying that with me.
Don't come back to the table till you do.
Good luck trying that with me. Why don't you just get somebody to feed them
to you? You're a slop.
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Some guy calling himself Stud Marino, which is a bit of an unfortunate Twitter handle,
has
addressed this to Sandra, saying, I love your spot, Sandra, keeping those buffoons in line. It's a bit harsh,
really?
Isn't it?
That is very harsh indeed. Very, very harsh. And I could take objection to that if I felt strongly enough about the half-bake who has written it.
Yes. He calls himself Stud Marino.
Stud Marino. Yeah. What a silly name.
It is a silly name.
Now listen, I'll tell you what I want to tell you. This is very, very important. I am renowned for quite a few things in terms of insight into the way the world works.
You are indeed.
Now, one thing I've never been able to get over to people is that the times of sporting achievements on the athletics tracks will keep coming down forever. And that is why I made the statement on one occasion. And in fact, it wasn't even a statement, it was a question. People forget that. How long will it take before a man can run the 100 metres in 1 second?
And what was your estimate?
Well, I said it could take centuries, but it'll happen eventually because you're always chipping off a tenth of a second, a tenth of a second, a tenth of a second.
Wouldn't by that logic mean that you could fly in a plane at ever-increasing speeds?
Yeah, so I think you can.
Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3,
yes,
which you can now do, will soon become Mach 4, Mach 10,
5, Mach 10,
Mach 20.
And then the speed of light. You fly at the same speed of light, and then you become a time traveller.
And I'm not sure if that's, in fact, that's actually
But anyway, the reason why I'm reminding people that I never made the statement that man will, run the 100 metres. I said, how long will it take before a man can run the 100 metres in 1 second? Because human achievement betters itself all the time.
Right.
Now, funny that only this week I've received a copy of an athletics journal, which is actually
Sports Illustrated.
No, it was another one. It was to do athletics, and it details a story of a team of athletes who are getting together, and their mission is to break the 2-hour marathon barrier.
I was reading about
which has never ever been done.
Yes,
it's never ever been done.
I'm not sure if it can be done. I think it's 2 hours and 2 minutes is the quickest.
It's actually nearly 3. The world record set by Dennis Kemeto of Kenya in Berlin in 2:14 is 2 hours 2 minutes 57 seconds. Now, it said it's one of athletics' most daunting targets. It's going to come under attack when a team of elite runners, because that's exactly, by the way, how Dr. Roger Bannister managed to break the 4-minute mile.
Yes.
It wasn't him on his own. He had 4 men with him, Chris Brayshaw and pacemen and all that kind of stuff, and they had to each take a turn to be his paceman during the 4 laps of the race, and eventually got over the line in under 4 minutes. Now, what they're saying is sports scientists have long debated when or if a runner would be able to achieve the feat of a 2-hour marathon. The marathon being 26+ miles.
Would they not have to run the marathon at something like in excess of 4+ miles an hour? Which is very fast.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Now a 3-man group is training for an attempt next year, OK?
Yeah.
The project has been put together over 2 years by Nike, which obviously is one of the world's biggest sports equipment companies, which has selected 3 East African runners under the banner Breaking 2. If one of them succeeds, he will hope to match the enduring fame of Sir Roger Bannister, who ran the world's first sub-4-minute mile at Oxford in 1954.
Right.
Breaking 2 support staff of 20 people.
Yeah.
There are 20 people, right? Includes designers.
Nike have got plenty of money, so it's a big thing for them.
Yeah, of course it is, Includes designers, engineers, coaches and physiologists. The most favourable conditions, including climate and course, have also been studied. Nike had no access to Kemeto because he's actually sponsored by their rivals Adidas.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But has selected Eliud...
That's a bit unfortunate.
It is a bit, yeah. Has selected a chap called Eliud Kipchoge, again from Kenya.
Right.
Where does the other chap come
from?
Well,
Kenyans
Kenya.
are the best marathon runners
of all
time, aren't
they?
Yeah,
that's right. Also from Kenya, who is a marathon gold medalist at the Rio Olympics, OK? And joining him will be Lalisa Desiza from Ethiopia.
Ethiopia,
That's right, yeah. And Zersine Tadizi, an Eritrean, who set the half-marathon world record of 58 minutes, 23 seconds in 2010.
So are they going to actually set up a particular race in which they're going to try and break it, or is this a long-term project where they say they're going to break it eventually?
Well, the rest of the details are this. They are understood to have all been paid to miss the spring marathon season. That's the one that starts next year. That'll be the London Marathon, New York Marathon, Boston Marathon, right?
Yeah.
To miss the spring marathon season before their attempt, with a lucrative bonus thought to be on offer if one of them can pull off the first sub-2-hour run for 26 miles and 385 yards. Their target pace is 4 minutes and 30 seconds per mile.
That's very quick.
Well, I mean, when you think that the 4-minute mile is a one-off effort...
Exactly.
And you've got to do that for 26 miles, with just 34 seconds more, it's incredible.
It is incredible.
The attempt will not take place in a scheduled marathon, to answer your question, but on a designated course in a location yet to be confirmed.
So it will be a particular event as opposed to them expecting it to happen at some stage.
As I say, not a scheduled marathon, but on a designated course and a location yet to be confirmed. Ideal conditions will include lack of wind, cool temperatures, and a looped course with no sharp bends.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you run around a bend, apparently, it takes your speed off you because your body's not at the perfectly upright angle.
Isn't that kind of cheating, though? Shouldn't they actually run it on a regular marathon track?
Well, I think it's... there isn't a regular marathon track.
Well, I mean,
really,
in terms of like the London Marathon or the New York Marathon or the Boston Marathon.
You'd have thought so.
Yeah.
Most experts have believed for decades that a sub-2-hour marathon was possible. A study by Michael Joyner, a physiologist at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota in 1991, estimated that a perfect endurance runner in optimum conditions could one day run 1 hour, 57 minutes, 58 seconds, and in 2011 he revised his sums to forecast that someone might break 2 hours between about 2025 and the late 2030s.
Really?
So they're even talking about it taking another 10 years,
Very
possibly.
possibly so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we have a listen to the original clip?
Indeed.
Let's do it.
How long will it be before a man runs from the start to the end of the 100 metres track in 1 second?
Don't be so stupid.
Well, every record that's ever been set in athletics has eventually been beaten, hasn't it?
Right.
In speed or distance.
Right. No human will ever run 100 metres in 1 second.
Andy Townsend not very convinced there.
No, Andy Townsend wasn't
very
convinced.
dismissive of you, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody is.
But you're quite right. I mean, for once, you've
Yes.
actually remembered the way that you put that particular point.
Exactly.
And you were exactly right as to how you put it.
That's right.
You didn't say it will happen.
No, I didn't.
You asked how long before it happens.
How long before it happens.
Which is very different.
Yeah, exactly. Very different indeed. And what I'm saying is the argument I've read to you about the desire to try and break a 2-hour marathon is exactly the same thinking pattern as I had when I asked that question.
Yes.
One of these days, could it happen?
Yes. Well, the answer is probably not in the short term.
Well.
But, who knows? Let me read you this from Andrew.
Yeah.
It says, hearing Jarl talk about how the US dollar was the benchmark is both convicting and depressing, seeing how our future generations aren't interested in hard work and industry to sustain our dollar's value and credibility.
Really?
And I suppose there is a point to that, isn't there?
There is a point to that. Just to finish on the marathon, can I tell you, more than a century ago, Spiridon Louis from Greece was the only runner under 3 hours in the 1896 Olympic marathon.
Really?
The only one under 3 hours.
Yeah.
And now a century later, they're saying they're going to get it under 2 hours, i.e. they've chipped off 33% of the
One
record
third of the marathon.
in a century.
Yeah. Extraordinary stuff.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Ready for the first ball. Ready for round one. Ready for kickoff.
Here we go then.
Every weekend, Talk Sport bursts out of the blocks and gets you radio ready for all the unmissable moments of magic from across the sporting spectrum.
Here we go for the fight of the century.
It's your best bet for all the sporting brilliance as the excitement gets set to explode.
And he turns and begins his run-up.
The Form Zone on Talk Sport with Betfair. Ready?
Here we go.
Go to betfair.com. 18 plus gamble aware.
Amigo Loans won't use your credit score. They can help you with a loan much faster than before. If the bank says no, go online and grab your guarantor. Simple loans from Amigo, that's what friends are for. To borrow up to £7,500 within 24 hours, visit amigoloans.co.uk today. You must be 18 or over, not bankrupt, and be able to afford repayments. Guarantor required who must pay if you can't. Representative 49.9% APR variable. amigoloans.co.uk.
This winter, something big is heading for ATS Euromaster.
The mother of all asteroids screaming towards us.
To celebrate the arrival of Ice Age 5 Collision Course, out now on Blu-ray and DVD, we're bringing you one mammoth deal.
I'm getting butterflies.
Not only is there 25% off when you buy 4 Michelin tires, but you could win a holiday to Dubai for you and your herd. Find your nearest center at atseuromaster.co.uk. Selected centers, conditions apply. 25% off in center only.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
playing this for?
Now, the reason we're playing this, remember that? What's that called?
Je t'aime.
Je t'aime, right? Remember this from your, your
erotic. Well, yeah, it was slightly before my time, to be honest.
Okay. Well,
Jane Birkin, wasn't it?
It was when I was in my early teenage years, and this was a scandalous record because that was Jane Birkin, who is 70, right?
Is she?
Yeah,
it's her birthday.
It's her birthday, so she's 70.
And the guy's dead, who I think did it.
Serge Gainsbourg. And Serge Gainsbourg was like 15 years older than her.
Yes.
But he was a craggy-faced French romantic, sort of pop poet. He's sort of Leonard Cohen type guy in France, you know. And he was her sort of, her mature lover and all that. And this record scandalised the world because it's supposed to be a record about a man and a woman having horizontal refreshment whilst they're singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all
of a sudden,
I love you, I love you, I love you, oh, I love you, oh, yeah. But it's all being said in French.
I think that's far too graphic.
Exactly.
It's a family show.
It is a family show, but it's all being said in French, of course. Je t'aime.
Well, because it makes it sound more classy, doesn't it?
Je t'aime, it is the language of love.
Yes, exactly. So if you say je t'aime, it sounds better.
But it was banned by the BBC, of course.
Was it?
Yeah, because it was said to be, full of sex. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we would call it.
What about some of the other lyrics?
Well, I mean, it's just a bit of French gobbledygook, to be honest.
French gobbledygook?
Yeah. Because,
are you sure?
Yeah, it's certain, because, it's just je t'aime, just kept repeating je t'aime. Now, what I was going to say was...
Well, what's the other? The next bit is not je t'aime, is it?
Yeah, but it's just French gobbledygook, it's just people muttering.
That's French.
Eh?
It's not French gobbledygook,
Yeah,
it's French.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it was just muttering stuff. It didn't say anything, not like... It wasn't like, the lyrics to a Bob Dylan song, that changed the world or anything like that. And...
well, I'm going to look them up now.
And the BBC banned it because, it's offensive and all that kind of stuff. And so Serge Gainsbourg died.
Oh, my love as a faltering wave.
Say again?
Oh, dear. I don't think we can read any of this out.
Oh, I don't think you should, no. Is that translated into English?
Yeah.
Well, read it out in French, then.
No, I haven't got it in French.
Because nobody speaks French in this country.
Well, I've got it in English.
No? OK, all right, yeah.
I'm not surprised the BBC banned it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you really?
Yeah.
I see. But what's the problem?
Well, I'm just reading all these lyrics.
Oh, really?
It's quite graphic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we mustn't read that out then. It's a family show.
It is.
But I was going to say...
Thanks for bringing it up.
It was banned by the BBC. And I mean,
so what's your point about this?
From what you're telling me... Well, I've just thought it's worth noting that...
well, here's a bit that I can read out.
She is still alive.
You are the wave and I the naked island.
Oh, well, that's getting a bit fruity, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And that's literally the only line I can read out.
Right, OK.
The rest of it I can't read.
OK, that's fair enough. But, I mean, she's still alive. The point is...
Why is that surprising?
Well, only that old Serge Gainsbourg, used to smoke like...
Well, he would have been 85, presumably, if she was 70 now.
80 gitane a day.
I used to smoke
what are they called?
Gitane, yeah.
Gitane.
And disc bleu as well.
Disc bleu and gitane. Smoke about 80 of
and
those
Gaulois.
And Gaulois, yeah. So
I used to smoke those when I was about 17 and 18. I thought it was very cool.
Make yourself look cool?
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
How ridiculous is that?
They came in that soft pack.
Yes.
And so you would kind of, you would bang it against your other hand to get the one to come out.
Humphrey Bogart style.
And they were very short. And all white, so they didn't have a brown filter. And they smelled great. I just thought they smelled terrific.
They're very pungent.
Very pungent,
yeah. Exactly, yeah. But I remember I went to some party, and I was only literally just about in my teens, sort of 13, 14 or something. And somebody put this on, and this big fat girl called Sandra grabbed me.
Is this someone who was in your personal life, you mean?
Yeah. Well,
where was this?
This was back in Chester
right.
when we were teenagers, and we went to a party. I don't think I'd even got into alcohol by this stage.
Really?
Well, maybe.
10.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I think we had, but I think it was bottles of Strongbow cider, which we didn't think was alcohol.
Well, you must
mean?
have known it was alcohol.
No, we thought Strongbow cider was like cider. We didn't think cider rated alongside gin or whiskey or even
it doesn't,
beer.
But it's still alcoholic.
Or wine, yeah, but we didn't. And I remember this big fat girl called Sandra, who had a very tight dress on, suddenly leapt on me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, in a very sort of imposing sort of a way.
Was she bigger than you then?
Oh, yeah, she was bigger than me.
Right.
And
you must have been quite intimidated.
Well, yes, I was a little. I mean, I hadn't had a great deal of experience with the opposite sex at that sort of age.
Right.
And she made it very clear what she wanted to indulge in with
Is that
me.
right?
Yes. It's quite shocking, actually, at that age.
Right.
But she said that she was fired up and motivated by this record.
Right.
You know, because it was
Is that
so
the word
sexy.
she used?
Eh?
Fired up and motivated.
Yeah,
Push the envelope.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But it was quite shocking to, a young boy of my sort of very innocent
Well, I think we've all had that sort of
you know what I mean?
experience at one time or another.
Absolutely.
I remember being chased around a party by some woman who wasn't particularly large,
right,
but was quite ugly.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's unfair. No, you shouldn't call women ugly. No woman is ugly.
Well, you just called a woman fat.
Well, she was heavy. She's a very big, heavy girl,
Big, heavy girl?
Yeah.
So I can't call someone ugly?
Well,
Well, she wasn't very good looking, let's put it that way.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah.
And everywhere I went, she was like following me around.
Yeah,
right. I mean, bizarrely, I was quite good looking as a young man.
Well, you keep saying that.
Before the age took its toll on me.
I remember you in your 20s, and I think you'd lost it by then.
I don't think so. I think that's very unfair. But everybody's got one of those stories, haven't they?
Yeah, of course they have.
They were desperately trying to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. But nevertheless...
So did you succumb?
No, I fought her off, actually.
Did you fought her off?
I fought her off, yeah.
Dear God.
And that caused a bit of a problem because our social networking was sort of, integrated, if you see what I mean.
Were you the only guy left or something?
No, she had the hots for me.
Did she?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And all I was going to say was that for what's the name of the girl again?
Sandra.
No, this girl who sang Jane Birkin.
Oh, Jane Birkin.
That was actually the only thing she ever did in her life. Do you see what I mean?
But
she's worldwide famous for it.
But I think, did she not do other songs? I'm sure she did.
No. She not that anybody can remember. She never made a film that anybody can remember. She was said to be an actress and a singer. But the only thing she ever did was with, say, Serge Gainsbourg mumbling in the background, je t'aime, she was going, je t'aime. That was the only thing she did. So all I'm saying is that for a 3-minute record, Jane Birkin became one of the most famous sex sirens in the world and has remained one ever since on the strength of that one record. That's called Life's Lucky Break.
Yeah, well, that's called a one-hit wonder speciality.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Lee says this, MG, what does Porky do with all the journals? His flat must be full, top to bottom with them. Or has he got a library in there?
No, I get them recycled.
You recycle them? How long do you keep them on average?
Oh, until I've extracted the maximum amount of information and knowledge from them that I possibly can, because I believe every word that's ever been written is a valuable word.
Every word?
Yes.
Well, perhaps not every word.
Yes.
And Becky says this, a great win, talking about Chelsea, scrapping out wins away from home, true mark of champions. Not all teams are as easy as Everton.
Well, I'm not going to respond to that one because Everton now have, I hope, turned the corner. Of course, we've got a fantastic game on Monday night, which is Everton versus Liverpool at Goodison Park. So that'll be quite a show on Monday night after that game.
I've just been informed, by the way, that the Hermes Birkin bag, which is quite a famous bag, a handbag, was invented or created for Jane Birkin.
Yes, that's right, it was.
Well, so she's got a bag from Hermes made for her.
Yeah, but she didn't do anything about the bag. She didn't design the bag. They just, because she
I know, but I haven't got a Hermes bag made for me, or neither of you.
But because she is one of the world's literally, sort of most famous sex sirens on the basis of that one record, which cost, which took about 3 minutes to record, she became the sex siren of the world. Do you remember a film called Emmanuel?
I do.
Now
Sylvia Crystal.
I was going to say.
You've talked about this before, Emmanuel.
Have we?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, of course we have, because you've mentioned it before in passing, because you remembered the film quite well.
I do. I remember the theme music.
Well, do you?
Theme music was brilliant.
Yeah. I don't remember the theme music. Why do you remember the theme music of Emmanuel?
Because I thought it was lovely music. I went to see Emmanuel.
How many times have you seen it?
Once, because it was rubbish.
And you remember the theme music?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
That's unbelievable. You don't remember the theme music of any other film?
I do.
Like what?
Top Gun.
Well, you remember the theme music for that. How many times have you seen that?
About 20 times.
So you remember the theme music of one film because you watched it 20 times?
Yes.
And you remember the theme music of another film even though you only watched it once?
That's about right. Yeah, but I mean, it was haunting music. It was haunting sort of French-style music, and it was great. And in fact, I went and bought the single.
Did you?
Because
you went and bought the single?
Yeah.
Who's it by?
I don't know. But I mean, the theme music to Emmanuel got to #1 in the charts.
Did it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
And so I'm not the only person who thought it was a great
porn
record.
charts.
No, it wasn't the porn charts. No, it wasn't porn charts
give
at
us
all.
a blast of the other one.
What?
Well, the theme music from Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Well, there's two. There's Berlin's version of
Well, that's not the theme
You
music,
Take My Breath Away.
That's just used in the film.
You take my breath away.
Yeah, that's just used in the film, though.
Now, the other one is something about... well, it goes very fast, doesn't it? Da-da, da-da,
Is it Highway to the Danger Zone or something?
A Danger Zone, that's it. That's the one, yeah.
Well, can't you do that one?
No. I don't know the words.
You don't know the words?
Don't know the words, no.
So 20 times you've seen this film, but you don't know the theme
song.
Well,
one of the words is, I can take you up to the sky. Right?
No.
That's one line.
No, it isn't.
It is.
No.
What is it then?
I don't know, but it's not that.
Well, I'm sure it is. But
I don't think so.
Anyway, it's a great song.
Do you want to hear it?
Yes, okay, yeah.
You want to hear the theme?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure this is the theme music.
This is the theme music.
No, this is the planes on the deck at the start of the show where the planes are roaring off into the sky.
This is the theme music for Top Gun. All the other stuff is just scenes which are accompanied by bits of music.
But anyway, I've changed my mind as to the best theme music for any film ever.
Have you?
And it is.
What did it used to be?
No, well, it used to be.
Yeah, well, you say you changed your mind.
Yeah.
So what did your favourite theme used to be, and what is it now?
It used to be Saturday Night Fever.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I've heard that so many times now, I sort of tire of it.
Yeah.
Even though I think the Bee Gees are brilliant. Without a shadow of a doubt, the best opener theme music to any film ever was The Spy Who Loved Me, James Bond.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better.
Yeah, that's
without
a good song.
shadow of a doubt.
Carly Simon.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
The best ever.
But is that the theme to this music? I suppose it's the theme.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Because, and also the graphics, you know, where he's standing there like a secret agent with his gun, which
he is a secret agent.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, with his gun, which is like a Beretta. And don't you remember that?
I thought it was a Walter PPK.
Walter PPK was. That's
he didn't have a Beretta.
Right. No, Beretta's too small a gun. And don't remember as he's holding it, this beautiful girl in the animation at the start of the film is actually doing gymnastics around the barrel of the gun.
Animated suspension.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there you go. You see.
Now, I'm a bit worried about this Yahoo thing, right?
Why?
Because it says the breach is likely to have happened by an unauthorised third party in August 2013.
Right.
Right?
That's a long time ago.
It's a very long time ago. So people's email addresses, phone numbers, payment data, passwords and bank accounts have been known to these hackers for quite some time.
Right.
So
why does that worry you if it was so long ago?
Well, because
has all your money disappeared?
Well, not my money, no.
Well,
but I mean,
what are you worried about then?
It's worrying because about 1 billion people are likely to have been affected by it.
Yeah.
1 billion.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, but I mean, how does it affect me or you if we haven't been affected?
Well, maybe it affects you because you keep getting your emails hacked and you keep losing them.
No, I had a problem with the emails last week, which was sorted out by one of our top engineers here, our top IT guys, and I haven't had a problem since, thank you. So I know what I'm doing.
Well, I'm only looking out for you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, it's very kind of you, thank you. But I don't have a problem.
This is Talk Sport.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
That music can only signify one thing.
Indeed.
It is that time of the week already. The weeks are really flying in because it is now nearly Christmas. Only one more week to go in a bit. It's time for Porky Vision. There's been a lot of very, very good TV out there. Certainly I've been watching.
Yes.
But what have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching Rillington Place.
10 Rillington Place?
No.
Is
it
it
was
not
called
called
Rillington Place. This is the whole point. And so they wanted to make it different from anything that had come before. You see what I mean?
Well, by pretending it didn't happen at 10 Rillington Place.
Well, no, not really. Just to make it distinct from, I suppose, from the film that starred Dickie Attenborough. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to make it different. Now, the point is, it was in 3 parts, okay?
Yeah.
So you would expect it to move with some pace, considering that he's supposed to have killed 8 women and murdered them all and nailed them up in the walls and under the floorboards of his grotty home in Rillington Place, which, of course, was in Notting Hill in London, right? Now, the point is, the first episode was meaningless. It just portrayed this guy as a bit of an oddball. He looked to me like he was trying to impersonate Alf Garnett.
Well, he was a bit of an oddball, wasn't he? He was a serial killer.
Yeah, but, I mean, the point is, it just made him out to be a bit of an oddball without really inferring that he had murderous inclinations. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So, you know, just just a guy wandering around Notting Hill. Occasionally went to a pub where there were a few girls who were like the modern-day equivalent of pole dancers and that kind of stuff,
right.
You know what I mean?
He was kind of sleazeball, wasn't he?
He was a sleazeball. And you know, they had a younger couple upstairs which used to spy on and all that kind of stuff. But what was wrong with it was, and funny enough, when we spoke to Danny earlier before we came on air, Danny said, well, yeah, but in modern drama, everything has to be slowed down to almost snail pace. And he made the example of Mark Rylance, is it, the actor?
There's an awful lot of this standing around in, in sort of dark rooms.
Yeah.
With people sort of giving each other meaningful looks.
When I reviewed this originally, I said, thick pea super fogs and all that.
Yes.
And they did rely on a lot of that for the background to it all. But the third episode was the only one in which really there was any action, because in the first one it kind of set the scene for this weirdo guy and his wife and where they lived, and you could see how it was all going to unfold.
Right.
In the second one, there was a hint or an insinuation he might have killed the girl upstairs, right? Because they found her coat in his house, but they never found her body and all that. And then the wife of the boy upstairs, Timothy Evans, in the famous miscarriage of justice. Yes. He killed her when he was supposed to be trying to perform an abortion on her, but he strangled her without the husband even noticing, and then told the husband, "Oh, she died in childbirth."
Seems to be a lot going on in this house without anyone noticing.
Yeah, well,
nobody noticed that he was, boarding people up in the wall.
Well, no, because in those days there was no social, media or anything like that.
Yeah, but you're still in the same building, same house, right?
Yeah, but no, he lived in the downstairs flat. There's just one flat upstairs. So if he killed them, there's nobody else to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they left it all to the third. In the second episode, he did for Timothy Evans by going to the Old Bailey and saying, I saw him dragging the body out and all that kind of stuff. Which is a blatant lie because of course Christie had done it himself. But then in the third episode, they just exploded everything into action in the last 15 minutes. So from not seeing him actually kill anybody, because it was all, insinuation and suggestion and putting doubt in your mind, in the last one with 20 minutes to go, and you think, when is something really going to happen? Considering it ends in 20 minutes and it's the third episode of a three-parter, he suddenly starts killing people literally every 30 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, what they do is he's got this...
So it's like a montage, almost.
It was. He's got this chair in his room downstairs, and he makes the lady sit in the chair. He's brought all these ladies home, telling them he's going to give them an abortion because they've what's the word in those days? They've
I don't know.
Well, they've become pregnant outside of marriage, and that was a social disgrace.
Yes.
And they wanted to get rid of it. And he sat them in the chair, gave them a bottle of whiskey, and when they were laughing their heads off, he was then grabbing either a ligature to tie around their neck and
So that was always his intention, to kill them.
Oh, always his intention. Yeah, always his intention to kill them by strangling them, or he would grab a gas pipe to which he'd attached a mask and force it on the lady's face, and she was incapable through drink, and then she would die.
Right.
But the strangest thing was, it didn't explain why he did it. I mean, it's assumed he did it because he was a pervert, obviously, and the only way he could ever get intimate with a woman
been explained.
was if she was dead. Which is a pretty, despicable and horrible thought. But I mean, these people are despicable and horrible people.
They are.
But there were lots of unexplained things about it. But it was all so splinking slow. At one point, they showed him literally ambling around his own house.
Yeah.
After he'd killed his own wife. He killed her for some reason.
Yeah.
She threatened, I'll tell the police about you, all your pervy ways and all that.
Yeah.
And so that night he strangled her, just jumped on her in bed, got out the cord from the dressing gown, and just strangled her. But then he went downstairs and he buried her under the floor. So about 3 weeks later, he's ambling around the house, and that's all he's doing, ambling around the house. There's nothing else happening.
Right.
Oh, look at this lonely man ambling around the house.
Are we supposed to feel sorry for this guy then?
I don't know. I'm not sure because, as I say, he came over to me as an Alf Garnett type figure. Not a maniacal, dangerous, psychopathic killer, but like an Alf Garnett. And then he takes the body downstairs with his wife and he buries it under the floor. And then a policeman comes in who just happens to be a neighbour.
Yeah.
And he's sitting in the room saying, God, there's a terrible smell in here, Reg, because he was known as Reginald Christie, not John.
Right.
And he said, it's the neighbours next door. They're foreigners and they cook lots of food with spices. He said, really? He says, tell them to eat English food. I mean, it's all very bizarre.
Yeah.
Then he takes the mat up and he pours a load of disinfectant on the floor so it seeps through. But it was all very,
unsatisfactory.
And then,
so how does it end? Does he get arrested at the end?
Well, how it ends is that he goes wandering off somewhere, literally wandering off, and it's not explained why a newspaper headline, because he passes a newsstand, and I thought it was all very corny. He walks past a newsstand and the newspaper's been nailed up on the board, and it says, search on for John Christie. Why? Who was John Christie? And wasn't famous and all of that.
Not Reg Christie.
No, not Reg at all, John Christie. So then he goes wandering down by the River Thames and there was one of those really pretty typical sort of scenes. A policeman wanders up and says, can I help you, sir? And he says, no. Because he talked all the way through it like a complete half-baked. He talked like this, No, you can't. No, no, officer.
Was he from the north?
Yeah, he had a northern accent. Yeah, he's from Halifax,
Yeah.
Is there a problem, officer?
Yeah.
And he said, take your hat off. He says, take my hat off? Why would I want to take my hat off, officer? Take your hat off. So he says, you're John Reginald Christie. This is a police constable, Aye, is it? You must come with me. The next scene you see him, he's in the Old Bailey, admitting to killing like 7 people or something, But all the time it's...
So you didn't find it in any way sort of captivating?
Not at all.
In any way sort of suspenseful?
Do you know what it seemed like to me? It seemed to me like the director and the producer had said, let's make it as moody as possible.
Yeah.
Pea super, fog outside, in the house, just have Red shuffling around, but just dropping hints here and there. And then when they got to, somebody then came in and said, you've only got 10 minutes filming time left in the 3-part series, don't you? And he hasn't killed any.
Just finish it off.
Exactly, he hasn't killed anybody yet. Oh, okay. So they invented this chair, and successively 4 or 5 women were sat on the chair. He strangled them or gassed them, tipped them off the chair, and then there was another one, like a production line. And I think it was just so badly made. And then it was, no, you see, you can't have guilt without cognizance,
Oh, yeah.
If I didn't know what I was doing, Inspector, then I don't think you can find me, responsible.
So that was his argument.
For the deaths of these women. But I think it was so blinking slow. In fact, when he went off on the Wander the first time before the copper... I
must admit, you're making it sound incredibly dull.
It was incredibly dull. They even slowed down the pace at which he was walking. So, for dramatic effect...
slow motion?
In slow motion. So a scene that would have been very slow, showing Reg walking along a tatty street in Notting Hill for 30 seconds, became 60 seconds.
Well, maybe that's why they got to the point where they thought, well, this will eat up some more time.
Well,
we spoke to Kevin O'Sullivan the other day, and he said, some of these sketch shows, they just sort of mark the time out.
That's right,
and make it last as long as possible.
Exactly.
So that they can get over with half an hour.
But it was. I thought it was very poor. So then he ends up in the Old Bailey, and the chilling sign of the judge with the black flap over his head, black hanky.
The black cap.
Black cap, It wasn't a cap though. It was just a
it was
square
sort
bit
of a cap. Well, was it not a square cap?
No, it was a square bit of material. It was like a serviette.
I don't think it was a black serviette, but he's giving somebody, sentenced to death.
It was just like a black serviette. Yeah. And, John Reginald Christie, you have been found guilty of the heinous crime of murder. You will be taken from this, court to a place where you'll be hanged by the neck until you die.
Yes.
And then Christie was... Oh, right, okay, right.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
So you watched anything else?
So, Did
you watch anything else?
We've watched anything
else. It bored me to tears there with this one.
There's a detective thing called the Something Blake Mysteries.
Yeah.
It's based in Scotland.
You mentioned this the other day. It's based in Australia, isn't it?
Oh, yes, that's right. But there is another one in Scotland starring the bloke who was the copper in the Shetlands. The Shetland Isles, remember?
Yeah.
Shetlands was really good, but this one is not so good.
Yeah, it's not Scottish.
I think he's now been pigeonholed as a Scottish detective, and that's all he can play.
In Australia?
No, this is a different one. This is the one I'm talking about the 3-parter in Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's trying to nail a guy who's been in jail for 9 years, comes out and then starts raping women
This
again.
is a true story, I think.
That's a true story.
I think we touched
true
upon
story.
this before. All right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do that one next week.
Maybe.
Well, maybe you'll do a special Christmas edition next week.
Yeah, we could do some Christmas programmes.
Christmas,
could do.
Porky Vision.
Yeah, good idea.
Or maybe look at the movies or something that are coming out.
Yeah, could do that, yeah.
Okay.
The Rillington Place was rubbish.
Right. I won't bother watching it then.
Complete trash. By the way, he was Tim Roth.
Yeah.
He was the main guy.
Yeah.
He played
I like
Jesse.
Tim Roth.
Everybody said, "Oh, he's brilliant." I've never seen him before in my life.
You've never seen Tim
No.
Roth?
What's he ever been in? What's he ever been in? Nothing.
Well, he's been in loads, actually.
Well, you name one.
I'll give you a list. When I
Name
come
one
back.
now.
No,
Name one. No,
you
you can't. You see, you can't.
Well,
you
he
can't.
did Lie to Me, didn't he?
What?
Lie to Me. He did a whole series on that.
Lie to Me? What's that?
Tim Roth. It's a very good show. I'll come back to you on some more Tim Roth.
No idea,
stuff.
mate. What are you talking about?
This is Talk Sport. It's coming up to Christmas, and everybody needs an advent calendar. So here's one for you, Two Mike style.
Ho, ho, ho. Depp named the yacht the Val... Oh, God, this is difficult to pronounce. The Vajra Liroja. No, the Vajra... Honestly. Yeah, the Vajolly Roger. No, it's the Vajolly Roger.
The Vajolly Roger.
No, it's Vajoliroja. The Vajolly Roger. It's a funny name.
Oh, it certainly is. Ho, ho, ho.
Hey, hey, hey!
That was a particularly good one, I have to say.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that one.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Roth was in something you might have seen, The Incredible Hulk he was in.
Was he?
Yeah.
He doesn't look like an Incredible Hulk in Rillington Place. He looks like a wimp.
Well, that's the point of being an actor, isn't it? You don't have to play the same part all the time. He was also in Reservoir Dogs.
Was he?
Yeah.
What was he in Reservoir Dogs?
He was in Planet of the Apes. He plays quite often a sort of a rather nasty sort of British villain type character.
Oh, does he?
But not always, you know. But
Yeah,
he's been
I
in
see.
loads of stuff.
Okay.
Now, I've got some other news for you because a
yes.
few people have tweeted about this.
Yes.
Do you remember that Japanese sinkhole that we talked about in Fukuoka?
And we praised the Japanese to high heaven because they fixed it in 3 days.
Yeah, they did. Well, apparently it's sunk again.
Oh, is it? It's gone down again?
Yeah, they didn't do such a good job.
Oh, I see. When you mentioned sinkhole earlier, I thought talking about the one round the corner from your house.
Well, no, it's not around the corner. It's the one in Lewisham.
Yeah, Lewisham, that's
Well,
right.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping
yeah.
they've fixed that, but I
Yeah.
still don't know whether they have.
Yeah, well,
the
you
chasm first appeared on the 8th of November in Fukuoka's business district.
Fukuoka?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And the GG...
Sinkhole in Fukuoka!
Yeah, the GG Press have been saying that the latest subsidence has happened just within the last few days because special soil used to repair the sinkhole may have compressed the soil underneath as it hardened. So perhaps they're not as clever as everybody thought.
Well, I thought to myself, hang on, when you fill in a sinkhole, how do you know that what you put in it just doesn't just sink further?
Well, it's a bit like when you are on the beach,
Yeah,
you know, and
that's
you
right.
build a sort of sandcastle.
Yes, that's right.
And the waves come over it,
Yeah.
and then you put some more fresh sand on the top.
That's right.
And you try and dig it out. It's not actually necessarily the right way to go.
That is where the expression built on sand comes from, you see.
Is it?
Don't build a house on sand.
Jez says, hilarious. Porky has the accent of the guy spot on.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed.
And Mark says, reminds me of the famous serial killer Rice Christie.
Rice Christie, yeah.
Richard says, that impersonation of the TV review sounded like Graham Kelly.
No, it wasn't. No, it was Rillington Place.
And Steve's complaining that there wasn't any Rogerisation in that particular...
No, I have to say, Inspector, you know, I don't think you can do me for murder if there's no cognizance, you know? Yeah, I think that was quite good, that. Yeah, I enjoyed that, yeah.
Kai says this, Porky's ramblings are so bad, they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Only killed his wife for some reason. He goes,
Yeah.
very insightful.
Yeah, well, yeah, but how can I be more insightful than that? Listen, talking about dying, by the way.
What?
Talking about dying.
I didn't know we were talking about
Yeah,
dying.
we were. We were talking about...
Well, you were talking about, a sort of dramatisation of a real-life serial killer.
Yeah, well, people
Really talking
died,
about
didn't they?
dying.
Rillington Place, whatever.
Well,
you
they
know?
were murdered.
Yeah, murdered. That's what I'm saying. Now, what do you think about this? Because I don't understand this, but perhaps
What's
you
that?
do.
Go on.
Because you have a greater understanding of the social, network in which we live.
Yeah, okay.
Ambulances are taking terminally ill patients to special places of their choice under an NHS initiative. The End-of-Life Transport Pilot Scheme has 3 dedicated ambulance crews who try to honour dying wishes.
What do you mean, the end of life?
Well, this is what I'm trying to work out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read the rest of it to you.
Yeah.
We have been able to grant last requests for patients, such as one last trip to the beach, a church mass...
What, an ambulance?
Hang on. And one last visit to the Angel of the North, said Paul Liversidge of the North East Ambulance Service Trust. We have many stories showing what positive difference it's made.
That's ridiculous.
If somebody's dying, pal, it doesn't make any difference at all. They still die.
Well, it may make a difference to their personal situation and their experience, and it may make them a happier person as they die, but they've got no business using ambulances for it.
Well, exactly.
Ambulances are for saving lives.
Exactly.
Not for ending them.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying an ambulance is supposed to be free to try and get to somebody before they die and keep them alive.
Well, how many stories do we hear of people waiting 3 hours for an ambulance, 4 hours for an ambulance, can't get an ambulance at all, so they have to end up driving themselves to hospital?
But get this, Mike, this story gets worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes these ambulances are called out to people who are terminally ill and dying to try and get to them before they actually kick the bucket and take them to the Angel of the North. So that's the last thing they see before they die.
That's ridiculous.
It says here, speed can be critical, said Mr. Liversidge.
Yeah, especially if you're dying and you need to be saved at the hospital.
Yeah, speed can be critical at this time, and our scheme ensures patients are picked up within a timely manner to be taken to their chosen location.
Why can't they make sure they pick up the patients who are actually in need of saving in a timely manner?
Well, this is what I don't get.
As opposed to not doing it.
This is what I don't get. Get this. The team, he says proudly, sorry, that was my add to it, he says proudly. Yeah. The team has transported more than 1,000 patients over the past year. And then it goes on to say the project was revealed by Joan Bakewell, who was doing some show somewhere.
Yeah. I didn't know she was still alive.
Eh?
I didn't know she was still alive.
No, I didn't either, actually. And it was called We Need to Talk About Death.
Oh, yeah.
The 83-year-old Labour peer, she is still alive.
Well, obviously she is.
Yeah, she said dying at home would be the best. So that's her particular view.
Well, why do you need an ambulance to take you to the Angel of the North, then?
I don't know.
You know,
but I mean, it's just such a mad scheme.
But to me, that sums up where this entire society in which we now live has gone wrong.
Completely.
Because they use ambulances which are meant to save people.
Yeah.
To sort of make people happy.
To drive people around while they're dying. And so this is the ultimate bucket list, isn't it? You know, there you are on your bed, croaking like... and then, you say to...
You could be slightly more sympathetic for those people
you say to your nearest relative
in the face.
You say to your nearest relative, if it was me, like, say,
well, it'd be easy for you. You'd take you down to the pub.
No. I think I've only got a few hours left, son. Call the ambulance and drive me round Goodison Park, will you? I mean,
yeah, I know.
That's what it's all about.
It's mad, isn't it? It's totally
crazy.
Mad. Considering that we're being told every single step of the way that we don't have enough ambulances.
Exactly.
You can't get an ambulance unless you're actually on the brink of death.
I know.
That seems
I just think it's so ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when I read it, and I thought I'd better do some research on it. I did the research. It didn't make any more sense to me at all.
But it's only happening in the North East by the sounds of it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I suppose that, like all things, these pilot schemes spread all the way around, don't they? By the way, I've also found that the Climate Change Act, which was something introduced by both the last Tory government and the coalition and Labour governments before then, will eventually cost us £300 billion. And
in what way?
The £300 billion is what it costs to comply with the ridiculous laws introduced by the European Commission on clean air, which no other European country complies to.
No, or indeed any other country in the world.
Or any country in the world, but we do. Yeah. And it will eventually, by 2030, have cost this country £300 billion.
Yeah, but that's the bit I'm asking about, because where does that figure come from? How is it going to cost us $300 billion?
By using things other than fossil fuels to generate our energy. Yeah. So, for instance, the least cost-efficient way of producing energy anywhere in the world is with these ridiculous windmills, which are littered all over this country and across the North Sea and in the Thames estuary, and they don't produce enough electricity to power more than a few houses. It's so ludicrous. But
it's so far down the road now, there's no point going back, is there?
Well, the people who've built them make huge hundreds of millions of pounds because the government wanted to encourage people to build them and had to say there has to be a cash incentive, of course, because you want clean air.
Right.
So these people are just like, they're literally investors. They couldn't care less about how clean the air is. They just make loads and loads of money from doing it. It is utterly ridiculous.
You couldn't care how clean the air is either, could you? Really?
Well, I do care how clean the air is, but I do think that if me talking about my pea supers in Rillington Place, that was in the 50s, you don't get that anymore. The air is much, much cleaner than it's ever been. And I don't think you've got to spend 300 billion quid, which could be spent on... 300 billion quid could eradicate, old age, misery, poverty.
Buy a load more ambulances to drive people to the
Buy a load more
North.
ambulances, rebuild schools and hospitals.
Why would you want to go to the Angel of the North as your dying wish?
Well, I suppose if
I've never been particularly taken by the Angel of the North.
I quite like it. I quite like it, yeah.
I would have liked it if it looked more sort of...
angelic.
Shiny. No, I mean, it's just the material.
It's dull copper, isn't it?
It's all rusty now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah.
So it's already kind of past its best.
But I think it is a monument for the North. I quite like it.
Do you?
You know, in the South, they were supposed to be building a 100-foot tall horse.
Not half a horse.
No, not half a horse. No,
a horse's arse.
They're actually supposed to have a...
I thought they did build that, didn't they?
Well, where is it then?
I'm sure they did build it.
No.
I'm sure I've seen pictures of it.
No.
Really?
Well, where is it? I mean, look, I'm not having a go at you.
No,
but if it stood there and 100 feet tall, there'd be loads of pictures of people, posing on it and all that kind of stuff.
But that's what I mean. I think I've seen pictures of a massive horse being built.
No, it's never been built because if it was, I'd have gone and seen it by now because it'd be quite a vision.
Wasn't it going to be built in somewhere like Berkshire or somewhere like that?
Yes, something like that. But that's only because they've got them all inscribed in the hills, haven't they, in Berkshire and round there. The White Horse and all that. Where's that?
The White Horse. Well, there's several White Horses.
That's in Sussex, isn't it? The White Horse.
Well, there's several White Horses.
Yeah, that's right.
There's some in Wiltshire. There's some in Somerset. There's some, down in Sussex as well.
That's right.
There's a lot of them. I'll tell you what I found out this week, which I didn't know, and you may already know this.
Yes.
I was reading a piece that A.A. Gill had written for the New York Times about London.
The man who's died?
The man who died last weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was a fascinating piece. He wrote this piece about, for people that read the New York Times, about coming to London.
Right.
And about what you should see and what you should do. And you may know this because you're a man who knows about the minutiae of the English Navy.
Yes.
Did you know that in Trafalgar Square, all the lampposts have got ships on them?
No, I didn't know that.
And they're all supposed to mark the one version of Nelson's fleet.
No, I didn't know that.
Well,
in Trafalgar Square?
In Trafalgar Square, where Nelson's column is.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Nelson looks towards Waterloo.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
and on all of the lampposts, apparently.
No, I didn't know that.
There are little model ships.
Oh, that's fascinating. And next time I'm in Trafalgar Square, I'll go and have a look and make sure that.
Isn't that amazing?
I see him. Yes, it's absolutely amazing.
And I had no idea.
No, I had no idea.
I was born in London, lived here most of my life. Didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
So,
I didn't know that.
I mean, if
there's so much we don't know about London, isn't there?
Yes,
I want to take one of those tours of. The East End or something, the Jack the Ripper one and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I do, yeah.
Why?
Well, just because I think it's really fascinating stuff, I like Wapping High Street, actually. In some ways, I wish I'd bought a place there because it's so historical.
You used to live there, didn't you?
I used to live on the highway, which is Free Trade Wharf, and used to walk down to Wapping High Street and walk along the high street. The Captain Kidd pub.
Yes.
The what's that great one?
The Prospect of Whitby.
That's it. The Prospect of Whitby.
That's where they used to drown people.
Used to drown people out the back of the Prospect of Whitby by tying them to a stake at low tide.
Yeah.
And then they used
the chain that they used to tie them to is still there.
That's right. And they used to sit there quaffing their beer and eating their roast beef lunches while the tide came in, and they watched the prisoner screaming as his lungs were being filled with River Thames water to kill him.
And horrible water as well.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible way to go. Terrible way to go.
Not very nice at all. No. We're nearly finished here, I have to say, but we will be back very shortly. And, of course, back tomorrow with the Porky quiz on Glenn Miller.
Yes.
This is Talk Sport. I've ordered a Côte de Boeuf.
Côte de Boeuf?
Yeah, which is a very fine cut of 25-year-old aged beef, right? It's going to be absolutely incredible, but it's rather expensive, and I'm going to be picking it up next week.
Hang on. It's a 25-year-old piece of meat?
Yeah. Well, it's been aged.
Where's it been for the last 25 years?
I don't know. You can ask them.
Well, are you saying that they have these knackered old cows that stagger around in fields until they're 25 and then they shoot them?
No.
Huh?
No, they don't age it while it's still alive. They age it after it's dead.
Where do they age? What do they do with it? What age is the cow when they shoot it?
No idea.
Well, like 3 or something.
I don't know.
So what do they do with the meat for the next 22 years?
I don't know.
Well,
all I know is that if you go to a steakhouse, as you have done, remember you went to the Argentinian steakhouse and ordered an Argentinian steak?
Yes.
That's what you told me.
Yes.
A lot of that is aged beef, right? It means that it's been aged so that it is more kind of tender.
How do they age it?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a butcher.
Don't you think you should find out before you inflict this on your family?
Well, all I know is it
could be rancid. It could be crawled with maggots.
No, of course it won't be.
If it's 25 years old.
Don't talk rubbish.
No, I'm not talking rubbish. I'd like to know how they age, how you artificially age meat.
You don't artificially age it.
Of course you do.
How do you age whiskey, for example? 12-year-old malt whiskey.
By keeping it for 12 years.
They keep it for 12 years in a barrel. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is